Welcome to the fantasy audiobook, Biochemical Madmen in the Marvel Universe. Chapter 81. Because he couldn't see where Susan was, Noah didn't know what to do, so he could only stand there. I thought in my heart why Susan appeared here, and why she didn't wear a uniform. He considered a plot involving the Fantastic Four. Perhaps because of the complexity of the world, the story of the Fantastic Four hasn't fully unfolded yet. At least the current Doctor Doom has not been exposed yet. It was still the successful billionaire businessman Victor Von Doom. On the contrary, the four of them have solved several small and big incidents, coupled with the promotion of Johnny Stone, the Human Torch, so they have the title of Fantastic Four. Noah has also been paying attention to the situation of the four of them, so he still understands. Obviously, the current four have not yet become a mature combination. Ben Graham has clashed with Human Torch Johnny Stone on several occasions. Between Susan and Reed, it still seems to be in a vague state. Of course, this is just a judgment made by Noah based on some information he knows, and it may not be accurate. But at least the uniforms of the Fantastic Four should already exist. Susan didn't speak. Did she already leave? This possibility is naturally there. Before Noah could think for too long, he heard a voice coming from beside him. "You look familiar, like Noah Allen from Umbrella." Hearing the sound, Noah looked in the direction of the sound. But obviously, there was no one in front of his eyes. This situation made him a little awkward and said, "Yes, that's me. Were you chasing that man just now? Sorry for delaying your business." Quote, "Nothing." Susan seemed unwilling to mention this matter more, and said to Noah, "Please keep today's matter a secret. Today is just an accident." Naturally, Noah would not refuse without grace, nodded and said with a smile, "Of course, it was an accident, a beautiful accident." Susan Stone's face turned red instantly. If it was an accident, then it was too big, and she was a little annoyed. Under such circumstances, Susan had no intention of chatting, but simply said hello and left quickly. Noah stood where he was. Tisk Tisk smiled. The two had a brief conversation just now. Although the two didn't talk much, he still heard something. It seems that the relationship between Mr. Fantastic and Invisible Woman is not progressing as fast as expected. But Noah didn't think much about it. Everyone likes beautiful women, but if you go further, it will be much more complicated. What happened today was just a small episode to him. He was just a little surprised. Could it be that this Invisible Woman has some special hobbies? Smiling and shaking his head, Noah continued to walk home with this thought in mind. On the other side, Susan Stone directly propped up the force field and soared into the air. Noah guessed right, the relationship between her and Reed was indeed very unstable. Although she liked Reed, Reed always put work ahead of her and never expressed his affection for her. In other words, the two are not boyfriend and girlfriend until now. She didn't know how to judge the relationship between the two of them. After returning to the building and getting dressed, Susan frowned when she saw her younger brother walking towards her, and said, "Johnny, get your clothes on." Johnny Stone looked at the back of Susan walking past with a dazed expression. "But I still tidied up my attire." Today, he invited some beautiful beauties to play with him. In the hall, as expected, Reed was calculating some formula there. Ben Graham was lying on the sofa board. The top-quality sofa, which he had been lying on for several days, was clearly showing signs of being pushed down. "Susan, you are finally here. Let me tell you, maybe I have found a cure," Reed said excitedly. For him, the most proud thing has always been his own wisdom. As for his superpowers, they are dispensable to him, and he even worries about whether these abilities will affect his health. Ben on the sofa is a good example. Hearing Reed's words, Susan, who was in a bad mood, immediately became a little irritable. "Don't you want to know what happened to me today?" Reed came back to his senses, looked at Susan, and noticed that she was not in a good mood. "Sorry, I was too serious just now. Now you can talk to me." Quote. Although Reed said so, Susan didn't want to say it. Seeing this, Ben Graham on the sofa simply turned over. It seemed that the atmosphere in the room would not be very good. As for the treatment plan that Reed mentioned, let's wait until they finish their quarrel and ask. In the next few days, Noah focused on studying the Smaug gene. With the assistance of the system, his research progressed extremely fast. Soon, Noah developed the corresponding technology for cloning. With technology, if you want to realize it, you need only resources. The difficulty of cloning the appearance of the entire Smaug is naturally not small. But it's much easier if you make some changes. So Noah Smaug's genetic map made some changes, and then started cloning the Smaug gene. Not only in the laboratory, but also in the system, he also cloned. After all, it is difficult to guarantee that there are no defects in the finished products cloned in the laboratory. But the organisms directly cloned by the system can avoid these situations. If it's just for further experimental research, cells cultured in the laboratory are naturally acceptable, but what he wants to do is to phagocytize it through the black light virus. Then promote the memory and evolution of the black light virus. Naturally, defective products cannot be used. The time was spent in Noah's busy schedule. He didn't leave the lab until Smaug's dragon cells were initially cultivated and then swallowed by the black light. I have saved a lot of things recently. The gang thing is not over yet, at least Noah doesn't intend to end like this. Although he killed Mrs. Gao, but with the keel, he may have been resurrected at this time. Kunlun is hard to find, and he doesn't want to face that unknown dragon. Obtaining the keel of the Han Society is naturally his goal. The Super Soldier project is also proceeding in an orderly manner. In fact, as far as he knew, Ivan Vanki's suit was almost finished. When the time comes to equip the strengthened super soldiers with combat uniforms, they will have a powerful armed force and solve many problems for themselves. But right now, the most important thing is the Technology Arc project, and the problem of the genetic disease of the Osborne family. With the blood orchid, he was a little more confident. After hesitating for a moment, he unloaded the Smaug gene he was studying, and then gave priority to analyzing the blood orchid, and tried to use the blood orchid and the T-virus for comparative research. It's a pity that the two are in completely different evolutionary directions, otherwise, maybe they can be directly in place in one step. Next, it's time to talk to Mr. Fantastic. Noah made today's schedule. Early the next morning, Noah tidied up and went to visit Reed Charlize. He's not like Tony Stark who doesn't know what's going on. An official visit, at least, would be entertained by Reed Richards. Fly directly to someone's house with a steel suit. It's the most idiotic thing to do, and he can assure you, that's what Tony Stark did. Now he was officially there to visit, and maybe have a chance, to draw Reed Richards to his side. Although Reed is a trouble, his wisdom is very useful, and Noah still doesn't want to give up. Arriving at the residence of the Fantastic Four, Noah asked the guard at the gate to contact him before taking the elevator up. As soon as I walked in, what I saw was the scene of experimental equipment everywhere, which can only be described as chaos. In the very center, a huge machine stands. Seeing the somewhat familiar shape of this machine, Noah couldn't help thinking. Presumably this is the device that restores the Fantastic Four. Just don't know if it's done. After a glance from the corner of the eye, Reed Richards had already put down the tools in his hand, and then walked over. "Welcome, it's a bit messy here, you can find a place to sit for a while," Reed said to Noah with a smile. He didn't know the purpose of Noah Allen's visit, but he knew that Noah Allen was a rich man. Although since they became the Fantastic Four, he had gained some financial resources, but he didn't want to make himself a joke, and he didn't agree to Johnny Stone's advertising suggestion, so his income shrank a lot. Pulling sponsorships doesn't do him any harm, so he doesn't mind a few smiles either. Noah also smiled, and then said, "Mr. Richards, I've known the Fantastic Four for a long time." Hearing Noah's compliment, Reed's expression moved unnaturally. He doesn't like the reputation. He hoped that what Noah Allen had admired for a long time was his own name. But Noah didn't know what he was thinking. As the earliest superheroes other than Captain America, the Fantastic Four are indeed very famous in this world. But if you only take out the identity of Reed Richards, not so many people know about it. After all, what ordinary people pay attention to is not those cutting-edge technologies. They will pay attention to those top rich and glamorous stars, but never pay attention to a scientist with amazing talent. So Noah didn't think about it at all. His first sentence had already made Reed unhappy. After a few simple words, Noah said, "Mr. Richards, I came here this time and said that I want to talk to you about what Tony Stark talked to you before." Hearing this, Reed frowned. No wonder Noah Allen came over suddenly. His face was not very happy. Just as she was about to speak, Susan Stone walked in from the outside. After seeing Noah, Susan's expression was obviously stunned. Noah also noticed Susan's gaze, and said with a smile, "Miss Stone, we meet again." Again, this word caught Reed's attention. Although he has not confirmed a relationship with Susan, in his heart, Susan is his girlfriend. It was only because Victor stood between the two of them that they hadn't resolved it all the time, so he didn't speak. But now, Susan's reaction to meeting Noah Allen made him a little sensitive. "You know each other?" Reed looked at Susan and asked. "I just happened to meet once a few days ago." Susan didn't want to explain too much, but it was clear that Reed cared about it. Although he didn't continue to ask, his eyes had revealed all his thoughts. The air instantly became heavier. Although Noah didn't know exactly what happened to the two of them, he could see it. In the end, he laughed, broke the silence, and said, "Mr. Richards, listen to Tony Stark, do you have the idea of AAA forming an Illuminati?" Seeing that Noah interrupted the atmosphere of the air, Reed was also relieved. Although he didn't want to be rescued by Noah, he had to say that he really didn't know how to continue just now. His heart relaxed, but his attitude towards Noah did not ease down because of this. "His temper is not that good," just said coldly. "Yes, since you think the same as Tony Stark, I don't think we need to continue talking. Waiting for someone to call is not my style. No matter what threat you face, the best solution is to be prepared and kill the threat in advance." Quote. Noah was not very happy looking at Reed Richards' face that was even more arrogant than Tony Stark. Facing Tony Stark, he has gradually gotten used to Tony Stark's arrogant face, and has a way to deal with it. But Reed Richards once again let him experience the scene where he met Tony Stark for the first time at the reception. Most importantly, Reed Richards seems to have a smile on his face. But from his eyes, all Noah could see was supercilious. Obviously, he was not in the eyes of Reed Richards. Under the same circumstances, Noah could not care about it at the reception because he was only a small character at that time. By now, he was different. Susan on the side didn't know what the two were talking about, and looked at Reed Richards. Reed hesitated and said, "It's a program about world security. Tony Stark came to me before, but his idea was so stupid. While I share the view that the world is dangerous, I decided to change the way I deal with it. The most effective solution is to nip the danger in the bud. If the danger is found and then dealt with, the opportunity will definitely be lost. That's the way a fool would think of it." Obviously, Noah Allen and Stark are an idea. Quote. Although Reed Richards didn't speak clearly, Susan still understood what he meant. Noah squinted his eyes and added, "Tony may not have made it clear to you last time. There are many more dangers in this world than you know. Even an existence like the Hulk is nothing in the face of those real dangers. If we simply act when we think there is a possibility of danger, it is hard to say whether it will bring us disaster." Quote. Susan nodded, "This really makes sense. At least she doesn't think she has the ability to resist all dangers." But Reed probably wouldn't think so. Sure enough, Reed Richards immediately said, "The danger is only based on the inability to solve it. I don't think any difficulty can stop me. And do you think I'm stupid enough not to think things through before making a decision?" Quote. Look at the disdain on Reed Richards' face. Noah shook his head secretly. Obviously, his conversation is not much more effective than Tony Stark. Like Tony Stark, Reed Richards' arrogance comes from his bones, even more serious than Tony. Well, since that's the case, it seems that our conversation today didn't go well. But I still stick to my opinion. If you change your mind, you can always come to me." Quote. Noah said seriously. Then he greeted Susan, turned around and left. At the moment of turning around, Noah's face was gloomy. Although he didn't know much about Reed, he had heard about Reed's troubles. It seems that some precautions should be taken against him, so as not to be caught off guard if there is a problem. Reed Richards has a completely different philosophy and purpose. Hopefully, one day they won't be enemies. Otherwise, don't blame him for being rude. The thought flashed, and Noah's face has returned to calm. Just as he walked to the door, he was suddenly patted on the shoulder. "Hi, you are Mr. Allen." Noah looked back, and it turned out to be Johnny Stone, the Human Torch. Nodding his head, Noah said, What's the matter? Johnny said with a slightly excited expression. Mr. Allen, do you still have internal channels for the FD series in your company? When Noah heard this, he was slightly stunned. What is the FD series? After thinking for a while, Noah came to his senses. Although Umbrella is a military enterprise, but the products produced are naturally impossible to only have military industry. In fact, when an enterprise achieves a certain level, it will involve all aspects. For example, the intelligence system of Stark Industries, the energy industry and so on. And their Umbrella naturally has similar products. However, unlike Stark Industries' high-end byproducts, Umbrella's byproducts are all life machinery products. The FD series is a motorcycle series of the company. In fact, before the company was bought by him, Umbrella's economic pillar was largely dependent on the motor vehicle industry, which was able to barely survive. But that's all. FD series, except for motorcycle enthusiasts, probably not many people know about it. Otherwise, the motor vehicle field is also a piece of fat. How could it not be able to support a company? It's just that after Noah took over, he gradually shifted the company's focus back to military technology. The FD series also declined because of this. After thinking about it, Noah moved in his heart and said with a smile. The FD series is Umbrella's last series, focusing on the high-end market, but it has been unable to compete with mainstream brands, so it has been completely discontinued a few months ago. However, as the pinnacle product of the FD series, the Fire Knight still has a few units in stock within the company. Quote. Hearing this, Johnny's eyes lit up. The route taken by the FD series has always been powerful performance rather than excellent comfort, so the sales volume has always been low. Only enthusiasts who pursue performance will consider it. But even the FD series has some special products. The Fire Knight thing is a real limited edition, which is very attractive to him. Johnny immediately said, "Can you sell me one? I can give your company free publicity." Quote. Noah smiled, and then said, "You are Susan's younger brother, and you are also the famous Human Torch. If you want, I will give you one." Hearing this, Johnny's expression became even happier. The identity of Thunderbolt still brings him a lot of benefits. Noah saw it. Johnny's character, he also knows something. Young and energetic, I don't know how to restrain myself. These are unquestionable shortcomings, but it is a good thing to have shortcomings. The Fantastic Four are all powerful. Leaving aside Reed Richards, it would be nice to bring others on board. It's nothing more than a motorcycle that's eating ashes in the company's basement. With Noah's promise, Johnny's tone obviously changed. The words were full of admiration for Noah, bluntly saying that a man like him is a real man. As for Reed, when the two talked about Reed, the displeasure on Johnny's face was very explicit. If his sister didn't like that guy, he would never have any intersection with him. That kind of expression made Noah feel a little funny. Smart as Mr. Fantastic, even the small group of the Fantastic Four can't handle it. Just want to save the world. Coming out of the mansion of the Fantastic Four, Noah was in a good mood. Though the Reed Charlize thing is messed up, but he has already figured out the internal problems of the Fantastic Four. He even asked Johnny to pay attention to Reed's actions, and if he found anything unusual in the other party, he would tell himself. Johnny slapped his chest loudly. To him, it was just a small thing. He even said that if Noah was interested in his sister, he could help as a middleman. In this regard, Noah naturally refused with righteous words. But then, he gave Johnny a copy from his personal collection. Susan Stone. Well, he has a good figure and a good appearance, which completely conforms to his aesthetics. Stretched. Noah jumped up, and a pair of black dragon wings grew out of his back. Wow. The next moment, with the movement of the dragon's wings, Noah's whole body was broken. Watching Noah fly away, there was some surprise in Johnny's eyes. In the previous news, I didn't see him having this ability. After returning, I saw Susan and Reed Richards showing cold faces to each other. Johnny walked over. Sister, when I came back, I ran into Noah Allen, and he gave me an out-of-print Fire Knight directly. As he said this, Johnny looked at Reed Richards. It seems to be asking, what did you give my sister? But obviously, Reed Richards didn't understand what he meant, and even Reed's expression was uncomfortable. You shouldn't have taken his stuff. Johnny's expression turned cold, and he said dissatisfiedly, "Whose thing I take has nothing to do with you." On the side, Susan's expression is not good. Just because Reed couldn't hear what Johnny meant didn't mean she couldn't hear what Johnny meant. Indeed, they have known each other for so many years. Reed sent her almost nothing. It seems that Reed has been showing off his new inventions since college. Reed's intelligence is an important reason why she likes Reed. But this does not mean that she is not unhappy in her heart. If not, they will not break up. However, he has not found out until now. Okay, Johnny, stop talking. Johnny curled his lips. Even if everyone around him admires Reed Richards for his intelligence. But he doesn't care about these, he only knows that he hates people like Reed. A word Noah Allen said today made him agree. People live to enjoy themselves. As long as it doesn't get in the way of others, there's nothing wrong with that. But as long as Reed was around, he felt that his life would not be happy. On the other side, Noah was flying in the air, experiencing the joy of flying. It is a different feeling not to fly, but to fly in the sky above the body. This feeling is enough to excite all those who have never experienced it. Just as he was flying, suddenly, a missile with a flame tail flew towards him. Noah's eyes turned cold. How dare someone attack him at such a time? In the face of missiles, he did not dare to be careless. After using his flexibility to throw off the missile, Noah stood in the void with his wings flapping. The sharp dragon pupil evolved from the black light virus looked in all directions. After a while, the search was fruitless. Noah's face was gloomy. This is New York, and someone can actually launch a missile attack here. Who the hell? On the way home, he was attacked by a missile. This Noah's mood is extremely bad. But the more so, the more he forced himself to calm down. An enemy that has not been exposed cannot be counted as an enemy. It is impossible for him to create new enemies for himself based on his own imagination. Although this passivity makes him uncomfortable. But right now, he seems to be able to keep this matter in his heart. Early the next morning, Ivan Vanke brought him good news. His first-generation steel suit finally took shape. Hearing this news, Noah's unhappiness from yesterday disappeared instantly. Isn't it just a missile? Don't say that he was not bombed, even if he was really bombed. To him, it was no more painful than a mosquito bite. Just upset. But the formation of Umbrella's battle suit brought huge profits. Tony Stark is reluctant to sell the suit, but he has no such concerns. Most importantly, compared to the pitiful maintenance items of biochemical weapons such as the Tyrant, the post-maintenance work of the steel suit is much more cumbersome. Every maintenance is a considerable income. After seeing Ivan Vanke's presentation, Noah pondered for a moment. In order to develop this suit, Ivan Vanke has not been out for a long time. I don't know the changes that have taken place outside. In fact, the performance of K1 seems to be quite backward now. Ivan Vanke was still talking excitedly. Boss, how is it? How is the performance of my K1 steel suit? I have compared Tony Stark's Mark series. K1 is no worse than Mark III in terms of performance. The most important thing is that the various weapon systems carried by K1 are enough for K1 to crush the Mark III. Quote. Seeing Ivan Vanke's expression, Noah looked at him with some pity. This poor child really doesn't know anything. Sighing, Noah said directly. Red Queen, show him Tony Stark's Mark series. Yes, Mr. Allen. As Noah's voice fell, the laboratory immediately lit up a virtual display. Above, start to show the various performances of the Mark series one by one. At present, Tony Stark's Iron Legion has taken shape. Ivan Vanke was dumbfounded seeing all kinds of dazzling battle suits. How can this be? He was a little lost. How could Tony Stark develop so fast? He considered the possibility that Tony Stark had updated his suit. But no matter how you think about it, the degree of development shown by the Red Queen now seems to have crossed the age. In his heart, this is not the technology and concept that should exist now. Of course Noah knew what was going on. The future city plan provided by Tony Stark's father, Howard Stark, is the crystallization of the wisdom of Howard's life. This is the entire legacy left by a man whose wisdom spans the ages. Noah even felt that Tony Stark's IQ might not be as smart as his father's. That grand plan, under the condition that this technological development is sufficient, is a huge treasure house. People's intelligence is higher than yours, and they take gold directly from the treasure house. How can you compare to a person who mines on the mountain? Of course, this cannot be said. Seeing Ivan Vanky's expression of despair after he calmed down, Noah comforted him. Dr. Ivan, in fact, you don't have to be like this. Tony Stark is good, but I believe in your ability. You can deduce the miniature arc reactor with only a piece of incomplete reactor data. Absolutely no worse than him, it's just that Tony Stark has the support of Stark Industries, so it's normal to have an advantage over you. And now, you also have the full support of us, Umbrella. Even if Tony Stark is one step ahead of you, I believe you can always catch up. Quote. Encouraged by Noah, Ivan Vanky finally lifted his spirits. That's right, I won't give up until I beat Tony Stark. He must humiliate Tony Stark the way Howard Stark humiliated his father. Seeing that the time was right, Noah revealed his real purpose. But Dr. Ivan, have you considered other possibilities? Like, combining Iron Suit with Umbrella. Quote, what? Ivan Vanky looked at Noah. Noah explained, although I don't have much research on machinery, I can see it. Either you or Tony Stark. Battle suits have a big limitation, that is, the conditions of the person wearing the suit. In the face of dangerous battles, the human body is always the most vulnerable weakness. But, what if this weakness becomes an advantage? Quote. Seeing Ivan Vanky's gradually brightening eyes, Noah smiled and said, Umbrella is a biotech company. Now the company has developed a serum that can strengthen the human body. The strengthened human body has stronger strength, faster speed, and a corresponding improvement in the ability to resist blows. It can completely make the weakness of the flesh disappear, and even become a huge advantage. If the difficulty of protecting the human body is eliminated, the K1 suit must have better performance. Quote. Will it get stronger? In Ivan Vanky's brain, he came to a conclusion with just a flash of thought. Of course, the human body is the biggest difficulty of the battle suit. After reducing the pressure of protecting the human body, he is sure that the strength of the battle suit can be increased by several %. This is still the bare minimum for preliminary estimates. It can be said that Noah's words opened his door to another world. As for whether it would be a trick to defeat Tony Stark in this way, he can't care less now. After chatting with Ivan Vanky for a while, the two separated with satisfaction. Even if the strength of K1 is not enough, it is also the first saleable suit in the world. What happened to the quality? Who is the only one in this world? There is no semicolon. Noah smiled happily. Money can't solve all problems, but it can solve most problems. No doubt, when he contacted General Reynolds and General Ross on the phone, both showed great interest. Umbrella really helped them solve a lot of problems. The other side, inside a military base, Bruce Banner is strapped to a test bed, surrounded by various instruments. Every now and then someone would draw a tube of his blood. Even if a day of torture is over, the various constraints on him will not disappear, and will even become more. Bruce Banner is going to be driven crazy. The military experiments are so inhumane that no one can afford them. These days, the only motivation to support him to persevere is to go out and meet Betty. However, he couldn't do it. And Hulk, for some reason, has not been able to come out until now. Under this torture, he suddenly remembered what Noah said. Perhaps, we should try to communicate with Hulk. Since the extraction of the Smaug gene and the blood orchid gene, Umbrella's development can be said to have progressed by leaps and bounds. Dragon genes are very useful. It's just preliminary research, and we can already start trying to integrate the dragon gene into the T-series. Although there are not many troubles in the magic department now, the anti-magic tyrant can bring him a great sense of security. The existence of blood orchids has also led to breakthroughs in many researches. And all of this, none of the progress of the T-virus made him happy. Serum that has the potential to cure Osborne's genetic disease finally works. With the success of the healing serum, it is not just an Osborne who can be cured. If the genetic disease of the Osborne family is successfully cured, there is hope that it can be applied to other difficult-to-solve genetic diseases after subsequent adjustments. This is undoubtedly a huge benefit. Noah contacted Norman Osborne immediately after the serum was developed. Norman Osborne received a call from Noah with a very surprised expression. although they had some contacts at the arms fair. But obviously not really a friend. Noah was not in a hurry to tell his purpose, but just asked Norman Osborne to meet. Norman Osborne readily agreed. After making contact, Noah came to Osborne Industries. Norman Osborne had been waiting. "Mr. Osborne, we haven't seen each other for a long time." Noah smiled. Norman Osborne nodded. "It has indeed been a long time. The last time at the Weapons Expo, the existence of the Fighting Wolf was an eye-opener." But unexpectedly, Umbrella immediately launched a new product. The performance of the Tyrant is definitely the pinnacle in the field of biological weapons. Quote. Speaking of this, Norman Osborne once again remembered the serum stolen by Richard Parker. "I heard that the Osborne family seems to have an intractable genetic disease." Noah asked. Hearing this, Norman Osborne's expression changed. "Although this is not a secret, not many people know it. Most importantly, no one will bring it up in front of him." Norman Osborne's complexion instantly became ugly. "What do you mean?" Seeing Norman Osborne's face, Noah laughed, and then said, "Don't worry, I came here this time without any malice. Instead, I have good news for the Osborne family." Quote. Norman Osborne's face remained unchanged. He could almost imagine what Noah would say next. "But is the genetic disease of their Osborne family so easy to solve?" "If it is really so easy to solve, Osborne Industry has studied it for so many years, and it will not be fruitless. Especially now, because of the disappearance of the spider serum. The board of directors put a lot of pressure on him. It is also because he is the founder of Osborne Industry, otherwise, Osborne Industry at this time may already be in turmoil." Noticing the distrust in Norman Osborne's eyes, Noah smiled. "Believe it or not, you have to try, don't you?" Norman Osborne hesitated, then said, "You're right, but I think it's not for nothing." Quote. Norman Osborne said with determination. Noah's expression remained unchanged, shrugged and said, "Just want to make friends. As for the price, Mr. Osborne said too much." Quote. Of course he didn't ask for it, as long as he paid the normal price. By threats, want to get the support of Norman Osborne. The Osborne family is not an angel family, it's not that simple. But as long as the Osborne family's genetic disease is resolved, the Osborne family will be their natural allies on some issues. This is the best solution. Friend, Norman Osborne agreed very readily, although he hoped to exchange it with real benefits. But that's fine, in this world, it's always good to have one more friend. The two then went straight to Osborne's biology lab. The genetic disease in the Osborne family is troublesome. But after some simple experiments, the two were pleasantly surprised to find that the serum was indeed effective, but further preparation of specific drugs was needed. It will take time, but at least there is hope for a cure for the genetic disease of the Osborne family. After determining the follow-up treatment plan, Norman Osborne sent Noah out. Just when I walked downstairs to the company, two boys ran over, fighting. Norman Osborne called to one of the boys. "Harry, this is the company." When the boy heard this, he immediately calmed down. The other boy was also quiet. Noah looked at the two boys. Harry Osborne and Peter Parker were, as far as he knew, longtime friends. Considering his age, could this boy be the future Spider-Man? Thinking of this, he took the opportunity of passing by, and his fingertip suddenly turned into a sharp thorn, piercing into the little boy's neck in an instant, taking a drop of blood. The little boy touched his neck, but he didn't know what happened. "Okay, Mr. Norman, I hope we will have a pleasant cooperation in the future." After doing all this, Noah said hello and left. After Norman Osborne waited for Noah to leave, the expression on his face finally began to show uncontrollable excitement. The genetic disease of their Osborne family can finally be cured. After Noah returned to the hive base, he immediately observed and analyzed the drop of blood he had obtained. Upon analysis, the expression on Noah's face immediately revealed a smile. Sure enough, this is the future Spider-Man. With Richard Parker's genetic engineering. In the future, if there is a chance to get a special mutant spider from Osborne Industries, maybe he can create a new Spider-Man too. It's interesting to think about it. Now that you have come to this world, how can you not leave some traces of yourself? S.H.I.E.L.D. Nick Fury is thinking about the Avengers plan. The recruitment of the Avengers program is not going well at the moment. Except for a few internal candidates from S.H.I.E.L.D., almost none of them were successful. But if that's the case, what's the point of the Avengers' plan? Unfortunately, Dr. Bruce Banner was captured by the military. Dr. Banner's wisdom, as well as Hulk's fighting ability, are the points he values very much. It's a pity that even he couldn't propose such an important figure from the military. Just as he was thinking, an unexpected visitor walked into the door. Director Pierce, why are you here? For his old boss, Nick Fury is still very face-saving. As soon as Pierce came in, he said, Fury, the current S.H.I.E.L.D., let me down. I wonder what you're going to do about Noah Allen. Nick Fury frowned. Pierce's tone made him a little uncomfortable. Noah Allen has always been on our S.H.I.E.L.D. focus list. I never let my guard down, but this is a S.H.I.E.L.D. internal matter. Quote. Nick Fury said. Pierce's face remained unchanged. Fortunately, you are the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., but I think you may have forgotten the concept of S.H.I.E.L.D. Noah Allen has done enough during this time. According to S.H.I.E.L.D.'s evaluation mechanism, he should have been included in the danger warning mechanism long ago. But you tell me what precautionary preparations you have made. As far as I know, you haven't even been able to plant a spy in there. Quote. Hearing Pierce's words, Nick Fury's face was not very good. But Pierce was right. Unlike Tony Stark, who was easily approached by Natasha, Noah Allen was extremely vigilant. Up to now, no agent has been trusted by Noah Allen. As for those peripheral agents, it doesn't matter how many they get in. It is impossible to detect the secret hidden by Noah Allen. Noah Allen is really too mysterious. The act of killing gangsters in Hell's Kitchen was just a response to the regular warning of S.H.I.E.L.D. But what they observed later made him feel how deeply Noah Allen was hiding. Just like Tony Stark, at some point, he had an extraordinary friendship with Noah Allen. With Noah Allen's background, in his opinion, this is an extremely abnormal situation. And this kind of abnormality is a threat in his eyes. However, it is only a threat. He has yet to find any evidence that Noah Allen has a problem. Although S.H.I.E.L.D. is not an organization that likes to talk about evidence. But in the face of this kind of capital that has grown up, there are still some rules that need to be followed. Director Pierce, let me emphasize again, you are no longer in the S.H.I.E.L.D. system. Regarding matters within S.H.I.E.L.D., I don't want to see you meddling. This is against the rules. Quote. Pierce snorted softly, acquiescing to Nick Fury's statement. But that's not what he came for. Just listen to Pierce say. I heard that Noah Allen has mastered the method of making steel suits and human strengthening serum. Nick Fury nodded. These two, no matter which one, made him extremely coveted. The effect of the superposition of the two gave him the urge to snatch it. S.H.I.E.L.D. is committed to maintaining world peace, and super soldier serum and steel suits are undoubtedly the most beneficial weapons. At this point, even a tyrant cannot compare. Pierce immediately said. Get them. That kind of thing must never be controlled by such a dangerous person. Quote. This time, Nick Fury nodded in agreement. Even though he was very dissatisfied with Pierce's dictating, the two of them agreed on this alone. However, it is not so easy to get it. Pierce said grimly. Umbrella's hive base is located in the outskirts of New York. Even if it is attacked by gangsters, it is normal. Nick Fury gave Pierce a surprised look. Then react. Yeah, it's really normal. But Noah Allen is not easy to deal with. Quote. Pierce narrowed his eyes, thinking that of course he knew. Even the missiles were easily avoided by him, but to get these things, you don't need to face Noah Allen directly. Now is not the time to rip your skin off. Quote. Nick Fury pondered for a moment, and then a smile appeared on Hayes' face. You're right. It just so happens that S.H.I.E.L.D. has a study that may require Noah Allen's help to refer to. After speaking, the two looked at each other. Everything goes without saying. After Pierce turned and left, there was a gloomy look in his eyes. Enhanced serum, steel battle suit, but apart from these, there is one more thing, a treasure that even Nick Fury has never heard of, and that is his main purpose. Blood orchid. That is so mysterious that even with S.H.I.E.L.D.'s intelligence network, I only heard a name of the plant by chance. That is the secret of longevity, the enemy of death. Unfortunately, it's not time to deal with Nick Fury yet. Otherwise, as long as he gives an order. S.H.I.E.L.D. Hey, long live Hydra. Seeing a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent approaching, the two whispered at the same time and shouted slogans. On the same day, Noah received a call from Nick Fury. "Mr. Allen, we have a research problem about biology, and I hope you can come and help solve it." Hearing what Nick Fury said, Noah was a little strange. He doesn't have much contact with S.H.I.E.L.D., just occasional cooperation. In fact, the relationship between the two of them is not very good. Because the price he gave to S.H.I.E.L.D. was always more expensive than that given to the military. So in Noah's view, his next friendly contact with S.H.I.E.L.D. will most likely wait until S.H.I.E.L.D. gets into trouble that can't be resolved. Noah narrowed his eyes. "I wonder if Nick Fury has an ulterior motive." Noah asked. "Why me? You are the world's top biology expert, what's wrong with looking for you?" There was no emotion in Nick Fury's voice. Noah raised his eyebrows. "There's nothing wrong with that being said." After hesitating for a moment, Noah nodded and agreed. However, he still agreed with Nick Fury in advance that he would only participate as a consultant, not work for S.H.I.E.L.D. The difference is huge. After hanging up the phone, Noah immediately contacted Wade and Frank. Prepare them for an attack. He believes that Nick Fury's purpose is not that simple. Nick Fury's reasoning seems normal, but it's not tenable at all. It's just that he is skilled and bold. And he has enough confidence in Umbrella, the current hive base, let alone S.H.I.E.L.D., on this earth, unless a strong man like Ji takes action, otherwise, no one can make him feel the real threat. At his command, Umbrella's defense mechanism immediately went into action. At the same time, Noah also deployed enough early warning forces near the community where his parents lived. Let alone agents who want to kidnap people, even if it is a missile, don't even try to get in. As for killing his parents, Noah didn't think the other party was so stupid. If S.H.I.E.L.D. has any purpose, it must be an Umbrella or Annabella. After arranging everything, Noah went to the residence of the Fantastic Four. The main purpose, of course, is to win over the three other than Reed Richards. And the result, not bad. Especially Human Torch Johnny, although it hasn't been long, but the two have become familiar with each other like brothers. With Johnny's assistance, the relationship between Susan and Reed Richards has dropped to a freezing point. At this rate, it won't be long before he can isolate Reed Richards. Reed Richards is not easy to kill, nor can he be killed casually. But as long as the opportunity is right, he definitely doesn't mind killing the other party. Opportunities will always arise. Coming out of the Fantastic Four's residence, Noah contacted his big customers again. Before leaving, he had to finalize this deal. Now Umbrella's weapon list is quite rich. And for this transaction, Noah specially invited them to enter Umbrella's hive base. Test area. Noah took out Umbrella's list of weapons. At the front of the list, tyrants, Goliaths, liquors, iron suits, human enhancement serums, etc. are all on the list. In addition, the products of the T-Series, as well as various auxiliary combat equipment, directly covered the entire paper. Seeing these things, several military generals were a little excited. Most of the products here are familiar with them. It can be said that each one has a good effect. Just what are liquors? Everyone is a little strange. Seeing their doubts, Noah planned to give them a demonstration directly. For this reason, Noah found Deadpool on purpose. In the test area, Deadpool stood in the middle of the field. With a knife on his back and a gun on his waist, he was cursing. Obviously, this is not a good job. It reminded him of the scene where he was tortured by the tyrant. Seeing the liquors slowly encircling him, Deadpool didn't show any fear at all, but kept yelling. "Hey, boss, you don't mind if I make these pets of yours into broth?" His voice was transmitted to the observation platform through a loudspeaker. Noah shrugged helplessly. "Don't worry, as long as you can do it." After finishing speaking, Noah said to the buyers, "This is Deadpool. Although his mouth is a little low, but believe me, his fighting ability is not weak." Maria Hill looked at Deadpool thoughtfully. In the intelligence system of S.H.I.E.L.D., there is the existence of Deadpool. It is said that Deadpool has an immortal body. And also a mercenary. It was only because his style of doing things did not cause any harm to society that they let him go. But after Deadpool joined Umbrella, they didn't know much. Just in time, I can take this opportunity to see Deadpool's ability. This can also further assess the threat level of Noah Allen. As for the others, they looked noncommittal. "Deadpool. Is it very strong?" The next moment, Deadpool took the initiative to attack. Although the enhanced serum is ineffective against him, his combat ability is definitely not weak. Numerous battles have cultivated his most effective means of killing. Fighting without fear of life and death, when he was asked to act, he did not have the slightest worry. Especially now, with alloy bones all over his body, his defense power has been raised to the limit. Originally, he needed to worry about the lack of arms and legs affecting his combat effectiveness, but now, there was only one idea in his mind. Let's kill one first. Pulling out the 2 knives behind his back, Deadpool chose to be reckless. The licker found that he was actively attacking and acted without hesitation. Perhaps thinking Deadpool wasn't a threat, one of the lickers charged straight at him. As soon as the 2 came into contact, an extremely bloody scene appeared. The licker grabbed Deadpool with 1 claw, leaving Deadpool without the slightest ability to resist, and a piece of flesh was directly grabbed off his chest. Thissa. The generals in the observation room were extremely speechless. This is the powerful combat power. Noah Allen didn't want to use his life to prove how powerful these lickers are. If this is the case, then Noah Allen underestimated them too much. This kind of performance, do you think they are fools? Noah smiled and said nothing. The development of the situation at the next moment directly stunned several people. I saw that Deadpool didn't care about the wound on his chest, and he was still cursing. But at the same time, the licker's head had been chopped off with a knife. The battle situation was reversed in an instant. What a weird guy, he doesn't care about such a fatal injury. Everyone was surprised, but this also doesn't reflect how good the licker's ability is. Seeing this, the generals had only one thought in their minds. They came to watch this experiment. What a stupid decision. Noah was still smiling. This is just the beginning. The excellence of lickers lies in their ability to hunt. Then, the battle officially began, and Deadpool and Licker began to fight. Only this time, it's not so easy for Deadpool to kill the licker. Immediately after the death of a companion, the licker changes its course of action. It's like a seasoned hunter hunting a tiger. Although it seems that the lickers have been seized by Deadpool to kill a few of them. But they saw more than that. Such a strong learning ability. Lieutenant General Reynolds' face changed slightly. Umbrella's biological weapons have already proven their worth. But I didn't expect that there was such an excellent learning ability. These lickers have never made a similar mistake for the second time, and the reason why they not only died, but also because they kept trying. Maybe these lickers are more intimidating without the tyrant, but the tyrant doesn't have such a terrible learning ability, and he doesn't know what hunting is. General Ross thought of that too. If those tyrants also had this learning ability when Hulk was captured, things might not have developed to that point. Learning is the place that human beings are most proud of. Unexpectedly, these lickers are not inferior. General Ross narrowed his eyes and asked, "How much do these lickers cost?" "Not expensive, only $1.2 million US. Noah said with a smile. That's right, a single licker is indeed not expensive, but if the lickers want to show their strength, they need to have a sufficient number. All in all, it was quite a deal. Hearing this number, several generals were relieved. They were really afraid that Noah would say another number of tens of millions. After showing the licker, Noah showed the Goliath. This is also an open secret. After showing various conventional weapons, Noah looked at everyone. Then he took them to the next independent test area. After everyone was in position, Noah faced the crowd and opened his arms. "Everyone, please allow me to show you, the pinnacle of Umbrella, the real king of slaughter, the nightmare of all enemies on the battlefield. Super Licker." Quote. As soon as the words fell, a licker slowly crawled out of the test area. Unlike ordinary lickers, this licker is more than 10 meters tall. Even just crawling, the height is more than 3 stories. The terrifying body shape, even the Goliath giant just shown, looks like a baby in front of it. The most important thing is that on the head of the super lickers, it is not the same exposed brain as those of ordinary lickers. A large number of weird scales wrapped its most vulnerable parts. This terrifying figure made everyone's heartbeat stop for a moment. Roar. With a roar, everyone felt suffocated instantly. Some people's bodies even began to tremble. After recovering, these people were shocked, but also excited. If it's what they think, then this monster is indeed the absolute master on the battlefield. Seeing everyone's interested expressions, Noah smiled slightly. A super liquor, much larger than a normal liquor. This kind of terrifying monster, just standing there is enough to make people feel terrible. This is the whole card he prepared for this transaction. Even though the demonstration has not yet been carried out, he believes that these generals will probably be moved. There is a saying that is good, the caliber is justice, and the cannon is truth. Although it was a joke, it was also very realistic. And the super liquor, in front of these high-level military officials, is undoubtedly the one with the largest caliber. Especially after Noah explained the specific attributes of the super liquor, their expressions were obviously more interested. If the ordinary liquor is a tactical weapon, then the super liquor is a strategic weapon. And the price of this big guy. Noah made an offer, $360 million. Maria Hill took a deep breath. As a top agent who can represent S.H.I.E.L.D., she naturally knows the plan that was directly finalized by the two generations of S.H.I.E.L.D. directors. And now, the existence of super liquors is beyond her imagination. Will the director's plan really go well? For the first time, she felt worried. A big deal was done. Noah's funds can be said to be unprecedentedly abundant. The plan is proceeding in an orderly manner. Noah is also ready to go to S.H.I.E.L.D. to participate in research. Although he felt that S.H.I.E.L.D. was a drunkard this time, he still couldn't help being curious. Even as an excuse, S.H.I.E.L.D. had to come up with something that could fool him. And what is the secret that makes S.H.I.E.L.D. find it difficult to get started? You must know that, as a global institution, S.H.I.E.L.D. itself has a huge talent pool. There are many elites among them. Under normal circumstances, it is naturally impossible for outsiders to study the secrets. It can only be said that Nick Fury is really helpless. With this expectation, Noah got into the car that S.H.I.E.L.D. came to pick up. The driver who picked him up was nice. If she put aside her nickname of Black Widow, Noah might not mind having some intimate contact with her. Unfortunately, this one is not his type at all. And being able to send Natasha over to pick him up is enough to prove how much Nick Fury attaches importance to him. Along the way, Natasha remained expressionless, as if he didn't exist. Noah rested with his eyes closed, and had no intention of talking at all. This situation made Natasha, who was driving, a little helpless. She is still extremely confident in her charm. No man in the past could ignore her charm, which made her handy in many tasks. But it was clear that Noah Allen had deflated her. Although she didn't intend to do anything. But good communication is the beginning of further progress. But now, even if she wanted to speak actively, the act of Noah Allen closing her eyes made her unable to do so. She is very smart and knows that Noah Allen really doesn't care about her. The atmosphere of silence continued, and finally, the two arrived at the S.H.I.E.L.D. base. Here, Noah met a character that surprised him. Hello, Noah Allen. I'm Steve Rogers, of course, you can call me Captain if you prefer. Quote. Steve Rogers smiled. I have to say that the captain's smile is very gentle and contagious. No wonder it has become a spiritual symbol for so many people. But Noah showed a look of surprise. Captain, you are still alive. Ah, sorry, that's not what I meant. Hearing Noah's surprised and nervous response, Steve Rogers generously expressed that he didn't care. You're not the first to say that, and I'm afraid you won't be the last. Although there are already many people who know the news of his return. But because no high-profile activities have been carried out, the public is still unclear. Noah Allen is unclear and normal. On the side, Natasha observed all his expressions and movements without saying a word. In her observation, Noah was always smiling and behaved very normally. The only thing she could notice was that Noah was on guard against this place. But to be honest, no matter who it is, they will feel nervous when they come to S.H.I.E.L.D. But sometimes, what is too normal is also an abnormality. After passing by Captain America, Noah's nervous expression quickly disappeared. Looks like Captain America has joined S.H.I.E.L.D. What about the Avengers? How far has it progressed? In the absence of Iron Man and the Hulk being captured, who will Nick Fury find instead? Thinking about it, Noah suddenly chuckled. Natasha looked over. What's wrong? Noah responded with a smile. Nothing, just thought of a very interesting thing. Although Natasha's expression showed concern, if he was willing to communicate with the situation, he might be able to have it today. But it's a pity that Noah really can't accept this bus that has experienced so many men. So he was extremely calm from beginning to end. The two walked all the way in front of Nick Fury, who sat behind a chair with his back to them. As soon as they entered the door, Nick Fury turned around slowly. Noah Allen. The voice without the slightest expression, coupled with his series of movements, looked extremely pretentious. Noah chuckled and said directly, "Captain Fury, let's cut to the chase. To be honest, I feel a little uneasy right now." Quote. Hearing Noah's profoundly meaningful words, Nick Fury was unmoved on the surface, but his heart jumped suddenly. Noah Allen, what does this mean? Guess what? But if so, how dare he leave? Just by that super liquor. Nick Fury thought to himself. The news that Hill brought him was indeed alarming, but he knew that what Pierce had prepared was definitely not something that a super liquor could solve. Seeing Noah Allen's calm expression, Nick Fury suppressed the uneasiness in his heart. Maybe I thought too much. He didn't believe Umbrella had any stronger defenses. In that case, let's go. With that said, Nick Fury stood up and took the lead to walk outside. A group of people boarded the plane before Nick Fury said, "Captain America, you've seen it, and when we found him, there were some unexpected surprises near him. Perhaps, that will be the first time humans have found traces of aliens." Quote. Nick Fury said slowly, his tone seemed extremely solemn. Konoha just wanted to laugh. This is fooling around. You have seen aliens decades ago. However, he still showed some surprised expression in cooperation. Nick Fury likes acting, so let's show off his acting skills. After all, he really shouldn't have a news channel on this kind of matter. At the same time, Noah became more curious. Alien. Is it a Skrull? There should still be Skrulls on the Earth now. But it shouldn't be. This was not the case in the original plot. After flying for a long time in the plane, a group of people came to a base. Feeling the desolation around him, Noah sneered in his heart. Here, I'm afraid there is no signal. Follow Nick Fury into the base. When standing in front of the alien mentioned by Nick Fury, Noah's expression moved slightly. So familiar. Isn't this Megatron? Noah suppressed the excitement in his heart. If Transformers exist, then this world should also have a source of fire. That's real good stuff. Depress your thoughts. Noah asked with a puzzled look. What is this? Isn't it a robot? No one else needs to know about the news of Tinder Source. Everything. Wait until I get it. Nick Fury explained. This is our goal. We believe that this is a silicon-based life, which is very different from life on Earth. Perhaps by interpreting this kind of life, more possibilities can be brought to the future of mankind. Quote. This is a lofty statement, but in fact, he has only one purpose. Analyze this life, then create powerful weapons. But for this purpose, there is no need to tell others. The two men smiled at the same time, and both of them smiled sincerely. At the same time, I also thought about a question. The goal has been achieved. At the same time, Pierce stepped on his shiny leather shoes and walked into an unfinished building. In the unfinished building, a man was sitting on the sofa. Seeing Pierce, the man sat up straight. Pierce said lightly, "Noah Allen has left. Next, it's up to you." Quote. The man grinned and narrowed his eyes slightly. On his hands, there are rings full of gemstones of various colors. After staying for so long, I can finally move. Inside the Umbrella Hive base. Wade and Frank stayed together. Wade talked endlessly, and Frank frowned. It's so annoying. How on earth did this guy manage to be so cheap? He dared to say that staying with this guy was more annoying than being on the battlefield. Frank, what kind of shield are you talking about, and what department is it? Is it still affiliated with the United Nations and has great power? As for me, those guys are not good at doing things, and if they want to make trouble, they should face it head on. It's not something an adult should do to steal someone's ass in such a sneaky way. Quote. Frank has gotten used to his way of speaking, and said, "Since the boss has said it, we'll stick to it. No matter who it is, as long as they dare to break into the hive, they are the enemy. Facing the enemy, just kill it." Quote. Wade chuckled, with a wretched expression. I hope they can go to Annabella to have a look. I heard that the boss has prepared a big gift for them there. Frank's face remained unchanged. The boss did say that they don't need to care about Annabella's safety. But what exactly, they don't know. Of course, he really wanted to know in his heart what it was that gave the boss such confidence. Still he said, "That's not something we should manage. Have you done everything I asked you to arrange?" Wade's face was full of disappointment, as if it was a huge mistake for Frank not to be curious. Facing Frank's calm expression, Wade was also quite bored, and said cheaply, "Don't worry, I guarantee that everyone's chrysanthemums will fly into the sky." While the two were talking, a voice suddenly came from the intercom. The B3 team found an unknown person approaching. Hearing this, Frank's expression became serious. Not long after the boss left, the other party got the news. It seemed that the situation was much more dangerous than he had imagined. Keep observing and figure out whether it is a mistake or reconnaissance. After speaking, Frank thought about what to do next. Wade said excitedly, "I'm going to see what little babies are here." After finishing speaking, regardless of Frank, he ran out alone. Frank looked helpless. Well, he had thought about it a long time ago, this guy would not listen to his orders. Anyway, if he can't die, let him go. The periphery of the hive base. As a base built by Noah with huge sums of money, the hive base occupies a huge area. And this is just an above-ground base. The main body of the hive is underground. The research area, which is like a hive, is the true face of the hive. But even just the surface area looks majestic. A few sneaky figures approached the hive base cautiously. All of them had weapons on their backs and fierce eyes. They were not ordinary people at first glance. Going forward, we need to figure out what's going on in this area. Don't worry, no one would have guessed that we are here. Those guys, I'm afraid they won't be able to react when they die." Quote. The speaker was mocking. Just then, a voice came from behind them. "Oh my God, I really didn't realize it. What are you trying to do to my ass in secret?" A few people's hairs stood on end in an instant. Looking back suddenly, I saw a man in tights posing in a disgustingly shy pose. But they didn't care about nausea at all. The invasion of the cold made their limbs feel cold, and they didn't know when they were discovered. "Kill him." After the leading squad leader realized it, he quickly yelled. Now that it is discovered, it cannot sit still. At the same time as he gave the order, flames spewed from the muzzle of his gun. There was a muffled sound of puffing gunshots. For reconnaissance purposes, their weapons are equipped with silencers. But in a situation like this, he didn't think there was any need for silence. Their mission has failed. The only thing they can do now is to kill this person and go back to report the situation. Under the flames, the person in tights was hit by bullets without any accident. And not just one or two. Looking at the bullet holes all over the opponent's body, the corner of the captain's mouth curled up, and a look of madness appeared in his eyes. He liked the feeling of killing people very much. But then, Wade's performance let him down. Wade touched the hole of the gun on his body, and made an extremely exaggerated movement of being shot. At first a few people thought it was true, but within a few seconds they realized that there was nothing wrong with this guy in tights. Puff puffa. A series of gunshots sounded again. They don't believe that the other party can really be immortal, or that they have no other choice. After being shot so many times, Wade suddenly said, "Now, you guys are done, next, it's my turn. Don't worry, I will treat you like my third leg." Quote. Saying so, there were several gunshots, and the bullets fired by Wade hit several people mercilessly. His marksmanship has been practiced. After seeing bullet holes appearing on several people, Wade blew towards the muzzle of the gun. "Ha, Deadpool, good marksmanship. But don't be proud, next time, you'll do better." Quote. Then the fingers turned to put the gun back on the waist. Snapped. The pistol went off and hit the chest of a man opposite who was only shot in the thigh. Wade ran over with lingering fear. "Hey, friend, are you okay? I didn't mean it. I promise, I used to play like this a lot, and nothing happened." The man's eyes were dull and dimmed, apparently dead. Seeing this, Wade was taken aback for a moment, and suddenly cursed. "Shit, I said before, if you want to treat the third leg so close to you, if you are all dead, then wouldn't I?" Cursing, Wade looked down at himself, and suddenly his body trembled. Then he looked around with his head. Seeing that there was still one person alive, he drew his gun and shot him. "Well, it's all right now, if no one sees it, then it's all right." In the distance, a huge army waited quietly. After the gunshot rang out, the leading man frowned. It seems to be discovered. Forget it. If it is discovered, then attack by force. The expression on the man's face was indifferent. Because, with his strength, one person can take down this base. Strong defense. So what? In the face of absolute strength, all this is meaningless. Beside him, a big man was frowning. This man was Locke Rumlow, a senior agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. Umbrella is not easy to mess with. Are you going to attack like this? Quote. The corner of the man's mouth curled up. In front of the 10 Commandments, Umbrella has no ability to resist. You just need to remember our deal. Following an order, a large number of members of the 10 Commandments gang surrounded the Umbrella base. Their numbers have a great advantage. So no strategy needed at all. In the beehive base, Frank looked at the crowds, his eyes turned cold. These guys really came prepared. Attention all teams, cover alternately, kill them. Those enemies thought they were sure of victory, but Frank also had absolute confidence in his own hands. In order to strengthen Umbrella's defense, all members of the Umbrella Strategic Special Emergency Force are here. Although there are only 22 people now, these 22 people not only have excellent physical fitness but also wear steel battle suits. In addition, there are over 100 well-equipped strategic security forces. No one can break into the hive with this defense. Following Frank's order, the Strategic Special Emergency Force that had already been prepared was activated at the same time. At the same time, conventional strategic security forces also began to operate. The 10 Commandments gang thought they were toothless tigers, but they wanted to tell those enemies with practical actions that not only were they toothless tigers, but they were also very long. In the next moment, woo, woo, there was a sound of breaking through the air. The members of the 10 Commandments gang who were still advancing suddenly discovered that countless missiles flew from the sky at some point. Terrifying small missiles fell like rain. Immediately, the members of the 10 Commandments gang were blown to pieces. Accelerate and rush into the interior of Umbrella. A field commander yelled. Although his voice was loud, his face was expressionless. They had already thought of this situation. After all, Umbrella is a military enterprise, so it is impossible that it does not have the slightest defensive power. But no matter what the defense is, it is meaningless in front of their elite weapons. If it weren't for worrying about breaking something the boss wanted, they would have launched missiles long ago. A group of members of the 10 Commandments gang rushed forward screaming. At this time, those who run slowly are the most likely to die. God knows how long these missiles can last. No one can pass through a dense jungle under these conditions. Worst of all, if this jungle catches fire, then they're in big trouble. Just as they were rushing wildly, the rain of missiles in the sky stopped suddenly. Many people were taken aback. Then in the next moment, a large number of members of the Strategic Special Emergency Force wearing steel battle suits fell from the sky. Unlike Tony Stark's suit, Umbrella's battle clothes are all made for war. It is equipped with various weapons specially designed to harvest life. The firepower of the steel suit instantly increased the losses of the 10 Commandments gang. Some tried to fight back, only to find that their bullets were of no use at all. The bullets hitting those special alloys are as ridiculous as a group of mosquitoes biting stones. At the same time, the figure of Deadpool is also shuttled on the battlefield. Although his mouth is very cheap, but when he kills people, he is also straightforward. Like the son of death. The commander-in-chief of the 10 Commandments gang found this situation. Although his face was ugly, he didn't hesitate, and immediately dispatched their real elite. A force with state-of-the-art weapons. When this force collided with the Strategic Special Emergency Force, the expressions of the members of the Strategic Special Emergency Force changed. The weapons of these people can pose a threat to them. This discovery made everyone's fighting methods restrained a lot. There are only 22 of them, which is nothing compared to the large number of enemies. Seeing this, Frank said to Caroline on the side, "The command here is handed over to you." Caroline nodded. It's not that she doesn't know anything, she has also been on the battlefield. In fact, even though she was a woman, she had already injected 5 of the enhanced serum, and her progress was only lower than Frank's. After Frank explained, he picked up the weapon on the side and walked out. He didn't put on his battle suit. Although those battle suits are good, they also reduce people's flexibility. For him, this is definitely an unforgivable shortcoming. Especially now that he has injected 7 serums, his physical fitness is comparable to that of Captain America. Put on the battle suit, the gain outweighs the loss. With the addition of Frank, there is another top killer in the jungle. And he only kills those with top weapons. Although Umbrella's combat strength is less than 200 people, the battle situation is still overwhelming. The Mandarin who watched through the camera in the distance was already very dissatisfied. Pierce is his ally, and Brock Rumlow is the ally's subordinate. In front of his allies, it took him so long to not even be able to enter the gate of a military-industrial enterprise base, which made him feel ashamed. Brock Rumlow chuckled lightly, full of disdain. Trash is trash. They didn't even enter the gate of Umbrella's base, how could they be expected to deal with those Umbrella's biological weapons? Fortunately, they didn't put all their hopes on these people. He looked back at one of his subordinates and said, "Looks like it's time for us to play, let's arrange for someone to go." His subordinate nodded silently, then turned and left. The Mandarin looked at his commander dissatisfied. Some cold sweat broke out on the commander's forehead, he gritted his teeth and said, "The steel suits that those people wore caused us a lot of trouble. Boss, I think we need to use unconventional force." Quote. The Mandarin groaned for a moment, then shook his head. "Forget it, wait a little longer. This is New York after all. Although we have already said hello, large-scale weapons will also cause a lot of trouble. Let's see what our friends can do." Quote. Soon, 7 or 8 Tyrant T-101s came slowly. The Mandarin looked at T-101, he knew about it, but he hadn't got it yet. "Tyrant, it's a good idea to take Umbrella's stuff and deal with them." Brock Rumlow smiled. "It's just a few tyrants, to them Hydra, it's nothing at all." That is to say, Nick Fury doesn't know, otherwise, he might be pissed off. Because several of the Tyrant T-101s actually have the logo of S.H.I.E.L.D. In other words, these tyrants were bought with money. But now, it has become someone else's big toy. Go, tear the enemy apart. With Brock Rumlow's orders, the tyrant began to accelerate. They are the killing kings on the battlefield, and now, what they want to do is to kill. Boom-a-a, boom. The battle is still going on, and it is getting more and more anxious. Frank kept judging the situation and arranging the tactics of the two troops. Wade is messing around like a shit stick. Just when Wade was killing, there was a burst of heavy footsteps. Hearing the familiar footsteps, Wade turned his head and saw a tyrant rushing towards him. Before he could react, the Tyrant T-101 approached with terrifying explosive power and grabbed his head. Wade had no fear, just a little curiosity. There was even a trace of nostalgia in his eyes. The last time this happened, his head was kicked like a ball. "Now, you rubbish, if you have the ability, just drag my head off and kick it like a ball," Wade challenged. Naturally, T-101 couldn't understand his provocation, but the tyrant didn't know what it meant to keep his hand, so he made a sudden force with his giant hand. Gah! Wade's head remained firmly on his shoulder. Then Wade smiled. "Hey, big man, it's my turn." Chapter 91. As soon as he finished speaking, Wade took a knife and slashed at Tyrant T-101. He has dealt with tyrants before and knows that these big guys are not so easy to deal with. But he has a style of doing things, if you can't kill me, I will kill you. Unfortunately, so far, no one has been able to kill him. Therefore, he was very arrogant, and exchanged blood with the Tyrant T-101 with a knife. Today, it's time to avenge the one goal in the proving ground. He also wants to kick this tyrant's big head as a ball. On the other side, the addition of the tyrant immediately put pressure on Umbrella's defense. Frank's face was not very good, the enemy actually used their Umbrella products against them. But, do you have it? Originally, I thought the main purpose of today was to train soldiers. Although Umbrella's private troops are well equipped and of excellent quality. But without experiencing a real battle, it is difficult to turn this kind of excellence into real combat power. But now that the enemy has dispatched a tyrant, there is no reason for them to be beaten passively. Taking out the walkie-talkie, Frank adjusted the channel, and said, "Elvis, apply to unlock the tyrant, Model T-101, Chaser, Emperor, and apply to dispatch the liquor, it's time to end this farce. If these guys are really allowed to break into Umbrella, the boss will not be able to explain it. Quote. Frank's voice fell. Soon, Elvis' voice came from the other side of the intercom. Understood, let's end it. Umbrella's security department performed well today. After a few compliments, the conversation between the two was interrupted. Inside the hive base, Elvis sighed. He really didn't want to use these biological weapons. Although he thought so in his heart, the movements of his hands were not slow. After a few quick clicks on the console, there was a piercing sound from the whole base. The red alarm roared, and all idlers retreated. The cultivation tanks in each test area were opened one after another, and more than 10 tyrants of various models opened their eyes at the same time. Hundreds of lickers were released. And in the depths of the base, there are more cultivation tanks that are still closed. The ones awakened now are only a small part. If it weren't for the government's vigilance, it wouldn't be just such a small amount of combat power. But that's enough. The next moment, with the dispatch of a large number of tyrants and lickers, the hive base was full of chilling atmosphere. On the surface, seeing the enemy's terrifying war machine suppressed, everyone in the 10 rings was excited. But soon, Umbrella's tyrants and lickers pour in. It's like a tiger among the sheep. Excited, all they felt at this moment was despair. The situation of the battle changed again and again, making the Mandarin look ugly. Just when the battle here is stalemate. Inside the shield base, Noah is also doing research on Megatron. This kind of big guy is not a good stubble. Even Noah had no intention of releasing Megatron from the ice. Transformers are the representative race of the mechanical system, and their technological strength far exceeds that of the Earth. Even if it can be captured in time, there is no guarantee that the other party will not send the signal into space. Once the main force of Transformers is attracted, it will be a big trouble. And he didn't want to face such trouble. At least not now. Of course, if S.H.I.E.L.D. is doing something on its own and asking him for help, that's another concept. There are still many good things in S.H.I.E.L.D. Maybe you can take this opportunity to exchange for some good things. After studying for a while, Noah looked up from the computer data. This is indeed not carbon-based life. To be honest, the existence of this silicon-based life is enough to overturn all the conjectures of us humans. However, it is very difficult to study something from this big guy. The best way is to release it from the freeze and try to communicate. Quote. Having said that, Noah shrugged, and then said, but I don't recommend it. It is difficult to guarantee that the other party will not have any means of communication. So my suggestion is, keep going. Quote. Hearing this conclusion, Nick Fury had expected it a long time ago, so there was no disappointment on his face. In that case, let's seal it up first. There are already enough troubles on the Earth now, and I don't want any more aliens to make trouble. Quote. After a brief understanding of the situation, Noah continued to conduct research. Even if it cannot be released directly, the existence of silicon-based life can still bring him a lot of inspiration. Maybe he can try to get a battlesuit that combines cyborg and life. Just like Venom. The difference is that Venom is parasitic and will dominate people's thinking. His goal is to make a battlesuit that is alive but has no thinking of its own. Obviously, this is a big project. Noah sighed inwardly. Although he can't use this kind of battlesuit, it's still good for people around him. Slowly, Noah immersed himself in the research. Behind him, Nick Fury has never left. Noah Allen was too calm. So calm that he felt that Noah Allen was not aware of the danger at all. This is also a good thing. One eye moved slightly, and Nick Fury breathed a sigh of relief. Noah Allen has good connections, and his own strength is even stronger. It would be best if all of this could be done without anyone noticing. Anyway, the ones who attacked Umbrella were just a group of terrorists, and they had nothing to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. As for the rest, he doesn't care. At least in this matter, S.H.I.E.L.D. must not intervene in person. After all, S.H.I.E.L.D. is still on American soil. Even though they belong to the United Nations in name, the attitude of local capital is also very important to them. It's just that he didn't know that S.H.I.E.L.D. had already intervened in this matter before he knew it. Even the tyrant was dispatched, and Noah was not a fool. How could it be possible not to investigate, and Umbrella's tyrant was stamped with the mark of S.H.I.E.L.D. Even if it is covered, this simple covering can be easily discovered. The most important is, in Manhattan, No's parents take a leisurely walk in the neighborhood. Behind them, several bodyguards followed closely. Suddenly, one person's headset moved. After that, the man said a few words to the others in a low voice, and then several bodyguards came over to protect the two of them. "We'll have to go back, I'm afraid." The two were a little puzzled, but didn't say anything. These are Noah sent people to protect them, and letting them go now is naturally for their own good. On the outskirts of the community, a group of more than a dozen heavily armed men looked vigilant. "Remember, our mission is to kidnap, not kill. Long live Hydra." Quote. Long live Hydra. The crowd chanted the Hydra slogan in a low voice. Just when they were about to enter, a group of fighting wolves had unknowingly surrounded the place. In the dark, there are countless pairs of different eyes staring at it. The next moment, a large number of fighting wolves rushed towards these people. In just a few moments, everyone is dead. This was just a trial by Pierce, and he didn't even have the idea of success. But he didn't know that the death of these people was not the end. In fact, he got into trouble. And it's big trouble. Noah knew nothing about what happened in Manhattan. He just took it for granted that since there was the shadow of S.H.I.E.L.D. behind him, it was impossible to do anything to his parents. At least not at this time. However, he ignored the existence of Hydra. S.H.I.E.L.D. has another name, but it's called Snake and Shield. Hydra doesn't have so many worries. He just threw himself into studying Megatron's life form. Of course, it's not quite right to say that it's all about it. Because he noticed that there are other secrets deeper in this base. More mysterious than Transformers. This made Noah think of the cosmic Rubik's Cube. The source of fire seeds may be very mysterious, but the cosmic Rubik's Cube is not inferior, and there may even be a stronger treasure. If he can get the Rubik's Cube, even if he doesn't have enough research on technology, as long as he can open the door to other worlds, then he can collect the special life cells of this universe to his heart's content. Although there are not many special life on Earth. But that doesn't mean the universe is the same. Just like Thanos. The Titans, no matter what legends they were in, belong to a powerful race. Of course, let him face Thanos now, he is not so big-hearted. Although in the movie, Thanos looks like a fool, but how can he be really that stupid after being able to dominate the universe for so long? The current self, against Thanos, might be as powerless as a bug. But after thinking about it, it's not realistic to really turn against S.H.I.E.L.D. When dealing with official organizations, there will inevitably be more worries. Unlike dealing with gangsters, it is enough to kill all the enemies. S.H.I.E.L.D. shouldn't be so courageous, and move him head-on under the pressure of local capital. Noah smiled inwardly and threw the thought away. In this world, there are rules. Everyone needs to abide by the rules, otherwise, wouldn't the world be in chaos? On the other side, the anxious battle at the Umbrella base is still going on. This battle has exceeded the expectations of both sides so far. In order to deal with Umbrella's biological weapons, the Ten Rings even used missiles. The huge movement, not to mention that the whole of New York can hear it, but based on New York's intelligence network, I am afraid that the war here at this time is already on the table of all parties in New York. Therefore, everyone in Umbrella was very calm. They are the capital of the United States, and they can be on the military table. A bunch of terrorists out of nowhere. The military doesn't just look at it that way. That is not only a provocation to capital, but also a provocation to the entire military. Therefore, although the battle situation is not clear enough, in the eyes of everyone in Umbrella, they are already sure of victory. They knew it, and the Mandarin knew it too. The military is not a kitten or puppy. Even Pierce's face cannot influence the actions of high-level military officials. Therefore, he must resolve the battle as soon as possible. Mandarin, seeing this, stand up. For a moment, all the members of the Ten Rings gang looked solemn, and even fanaticism appeared in their eyes. The reason why the Ten Commandments gang is strong has never been because of their excellent equipment, nor because of their numbers. The only reason is their boss, the Mandarin. The moment the Mandarin stood up, in their hearts, they had already sentenced Umbrella's base to death. No one can stop the pace of adults. Only Brock Rumlow still had a look of disdain. The Ten Rings gang, after all, it's still trash. Count on what a person can do. But he still watched Mandarin's actions. He has also heard of the name of the Ten Commandments. The Mandarin walked slowly towards the dense forest. On him, everyone in the 10 Rings gang followed closely behind. Brock Rumlow hesitated for a moment, but also followed. The gunshots were getting closer and closer, and suddenly a member of Umbrella's troops wearing AK-1 combat uniform flew across at low altitude. After discovering them, he just hesitated and rushed towards them. The clothes of these people can be seen as the role of command. If these people can be resolved, this battle will naturally end. However, as a seasoned fighter, he first reported his findings to Supervisor Frank before launching the attack. Because the battle has been going on for a while, his various hot weapons have long been exhausted. But the energy of the micro-reactor itself is the most powerful weapon. Just as he was approaching rapidly, the Mandarin raised his head, without saying anything, raised his right hand, and a ray of light flashed. Boom! A burst of energy came into contact with the K-1 armor, and the terrifying force directly destroyed the K-1 armor. Seeing this scene, Brock Rumlow was stunned. Members of the 10 Commandments are even more fanatical. This is the strength of Mandarin. The Mandarin didn't even look at the member of the Umbrella Special Emergency Response Force, and continued walking into the battlefield. Frank in the battle quickly noticed something was wrong. Because he couldn't get in touch with that soldier. How could it be possible for a warrior with superhuman physical fitness and wearing AK-1 armor to disappear without a sound? The only possibility is that the enemy still has an unknown secret weapon. Just as he was thinking, suddenly a cold light in the distance hit AK-1 fighter in the air. Just in an instant, the warrior's battle clothes were already covered with frost. Then it fell straight down. "Thomas, Thomas," Frank yelled into the communicator. However, no response. "Wade," Frank immediately called Deadpool. "Here, the situation of the other party is unknown, and he needs someone to check it out." There is no doubt that Deadpool is that candidate. Wade also noticed the situation. He was not afraid, just a little curious. After killing the person in front of him, Wade rushed towards the direction the beam hit just now. Seeing the Mandarin and others walking over, Wade was about to say something. The Mandarin had already raised his hand, and a cold light struck him. Wade's body was instantly covered with a layer of ice. "Wade, how's the situation?" Frank asked in the communicator. Wade shuddered. Fact. The Mandarin was surprised to see that he was still able to speak, and then raised his hand again. Boom! A burst of flames blew Deadpool to pieces, leaving only a scorched black alloy skeleton. The Mandarin was a little strange, but then several lasers flashed and the alloy skeleton was cut into several pieces by him, so he nodded in satisfaction. This time, it should be dead. Brock Rumlow felt a little chill in his body. This man is too dangerous. No wonder they are so confident. After blasting Deadpool to pieces, the ring on the Mandarin's right middle finger lit up blue. A whirlwind appeared out of thin air and carried him into the sky. You can see everything on the battlefield. The man's eyes were slightly cold. Then he stretched out his hand, and poured the violent ability into it. The next moment, flames surrounded the entire war zone. At the same time, violent thunder flashes in the air, and every time the lightning flashes, a licker or warrior must die. Even Tyrant, and K-1 armor, it is difficult to withstand the attack without injury. Seeing this scene, Frank finally understood why Deadpool didn't reply. Facing this kind of enemy, even if Deadpool is not dead, he is probably still busy recovering. This time, big trouble. Frank's heart sank, and without hesitation, he took out a controller that Noah left for him. He doesn't know what it is, but he does. The boss said so. If trouble won't fix it, turn it on. Looking at the controller in his hand, Frank opened it and pressed it hard. Whatever that means, he thinks it's time to start. The moment Frank pressed the controller, Noah, who was researching at the shield base, raised his head. The creatures created by the system have an invisible connection with him. Noah's thoughts are the means to control these creatures. But at such a long distance, even for him, it is difficult to tell the difference between individuals. Because he manufactured too many biological weapons. Not to mention, there are still many biological weapons that are under indirect control, and have even been sold. It is normal for some to die. In this war, the biological weapons that Umbrella dispatched were all cultivated by the company's resources. Naturally, they had no contact with him, so he never discovered them. But the moment the controller was turned on, Noah felt a wave of thought that was extremely bright even among his countless light spots of thought. This idea became more and more manic, obviously activated. Noah's face sank. The method he left behind was triggered. Sure enough, someone attacked Umbrella. Although it was expected, Noah was still extremely upset when the problem really appeared. Is his umbrella really a soft persimmon that anyone can squeeze? He must figure out what role S.H.I.E.L.D. played in this matter. Even though his current strength cannot directly subvert the existence of S.H.I.E.L.D., he doesn't mind stumbling S.H.I.E.L.D. and making Nick Fury regret his actions for the rest of his life. Putting down the research, Noah walked directly outside the base. Homes were attacked. What is he doing here? Before he could leave the base, Natasha rushed over. Mr. Allen, where are you going? Noah said with a fake smile. There's nothing to study here anymore. But I feel like something is wrong with Umbrella, so I need to go back and deal with it. Quote. Natasha's expression moved, with some smiles on her face. The glamorous appearance and this smile made her charming, attracting the eager eyes of several passing agents. Mr. Allen, Umbrella is a military company equipped with extremely strong defense forces. No one would dare to trouble Umbrella. The research here has just begun. We have just found several top scientists in biology and mechanics. We still hope that you can continue to participate in the joint research. Maybe you will be able to unlock one of the great mysteries of the universe. Quote. Noah's face remained unchanged. No need, although Umbrella's defense is good, but I can't watch others invade. Let's talk about the research next time we have a chance. Quote. Saying that, Noah's cold light flashed. Or, is S.H.I.E.L.D. trying to prevent me from leaving? The person who attacked Umbrella must have something to do with S.H.I.E.L.D. Quote. Natasha's face changed slightly. She didn't know the situation, but she still said. Of course it's impossible. Hope so. Noah snorted coldly and walked around Natasha. Behind her, Natasha's face changed back and forth. She didn't know the reason why Noah Allen left. Anyway, she didn't believe the reason Noah Allen said. But Director Nick gave her the task of keeping Noah Allen for at least 5 days. And now, it's only been a day and a half. Gritting her teeth, Natasha caught up again. The moment she was about to speak, Noah suddenly had a surge of black light. The whole person turned into a mass of black streamer, forming a terrifying figure like a demon. Go away, don't force me to kill you. This roar directly made Natasha's expression sluggish. The killing intent in Noah's eyes made her feel like falling into an ice cave. After intimidating Natasha, Noah turned around and left without looking at it. Even Hulk would bow his head in front of his posture at this time, let alone a Natasha. After Natasha regained her senses, she quickly contacted Nick Fury. She didn't know the reason for Noah's sudden departure. But Nick Fury is different. He just didn't understand how Noah Allen could detect the situation in New York at the S.H.I.E.L.D. base with signals completely closed. You know, the location of New York is half a world away from here. But he didn't worry about it. Although facing the threat of Noah Allen, the best solution in his mind is to kill him in advance. But without absolute certainty, he can also choose to check and balance. Noah is a capitalist. Capitalists must follow the rules. Most importantly, Noah Allen is not alone. As long as Noah Allen has no evidence of S.H.I.E.L.D. involvement, as long as he has family. That is controllable. It's his consistent way of dealing with threats. Fortunately, this approach has always worked. The distance of half the Earth is far enough. Nick Fury muttered to himself expressionlessly. Everything is under control. At this time, Noah had already jumped up, with dragon wings sprouting behind him. With a flash of dragon wings, his speed soared, and soon exceeded the speed of sound. But Nick Fury was right. The distance of half the Earth, even if Noah has supersonic speed, this is not a distance that can be crossed in a short time. But Noah went back, and it was not for rescue. All he has to do is deal with the aftermath. Because I know that no one can threaten Umbrella's safety. New York suburbs. After Frank pressed the controller. Soon there was a series of rustling sounds around. On the battlefield, the voice wasn't too loud, but it was so dense that it attracted everyone's attention. What's the situation? Many members of the Ten Rings gang had vigilance in their eyes. There are enough surprises today. The Mandarin was flying in the air, also frowning. He heard these voices too. See Wei Wei Wei. Russell. There are more and more chaotic movements, and they are getting bigger and bigger. Suddenly, on the edge of the battlefield, a member of the 10 Rings gang vomited blood. The next moment, a palm-sized bug appeared from the back of his head, and the people around him felt chills when they saw it. Watch out for bugs. They don't know what kind of bug it is, but it is enough to know that these bugs are dangerous. The people around got the reminder and immediately raised their guard. But the next moment, everyone's expressions were dull. I saw a torrent coming from a distance. Insect. No, that couldn't be a bug. But what are those? At the moment when the torrent came, countless people screamed. In the sky, countless flying insects with strange shapes rushed towards the Mandarin. The overwhelming scene directly covered the sky. In an instant, the earth was plunged into darkness. Frank and other members of Umbrella stopped attacking one by one. The scene in front of me was too powerful. If they hadn't been reminded by Frank, they might have thought that this was also an enemy. They shudder at the thought of the possibility that these monsters are enemies. Manchu looked at the torrent on the ground and the swarm of insects in the sky. His face was full of anger, and he cursed directly. Asshole. The fighters here are all his elite. The next moment, the rings on his hands began to flicker. Various energies poured out towards the surroundings. Flying insects from the sky fell like rain. The torrents on the ground also disappeared in pieces. The Mandarin laughed. These are your trump cards. He laughed wildly. Based on these, it is impossible to defeat him. But he didn't know that these swarms were just pioneers. In the torrent of the swarm, there are also a large number of T-virus-infected creatures, Goliath giants, and countless other monsters. There is no doubt that a big war is about to start. At this time, a large area of trees began to twitch. The whole earth began to shake. Ang, an extremely dull voice sounded from the ground. This low voice even makes people doubt whether the voice exists or not. The man's face changed slightly. The next moment, Shua, a tree root suddenly sprang out from the ground and rushed towards him. The terrifying speed pierced through his shoulder blades before he could react. The severe pain instantly occupied the Mandarin's whole mind. The next moment, like a hedgehog, the ground was instantly covered with countless raised tree roots. This is Umbrella's real defense force, the giant tree. The earth was devastated. There are traces of intertwined roots everywhere. The surrounding fire was raging, but the roots of these trees could not be hurt in the slightest. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. Suddenly, the Mandarin let out a roar, and the ring in his hand radiated various lights. Since he obtained the 10 Commandments, he has rarely been injured, let alone such a serious injury. All kinds of energies are raging. It kept attacking the roots that sprang out from the ground. But it's useless. Although the energy of the 10 Commandments can indeed injure these tree roots, but in front of this huge root system, his attack is not even a drop in the bucket. The next moment, the roots of the tree moved. The roots that had penetrated his shoulder blades jerked back, sending him another pang of pain. At the same time, the roots of the trees all over the earth also moved. Not to retreat, but to attack. In an instant, the ground was already full of dead bodies. Except for a few elites who survived by chance, no one could escape an attack from these tree roots. The man was sweating profusely. He regrets it. Maybe I shouldn't be here. He has always felt that in this world, no one can make him who has the 10 Commandments fear. Even the overwhelming monsters in front of him did not scare him. But now, he was scared. However, his self-confidence for a long time still kept him where he was. He hasn't lost yet. The power of the 10 Commandments goes beyond that. Deadpool, who had just recovered, looked at the surrounding tree roots, and touched them cautiously. But the tree root was like a dead object, and did not give the slightest reaction. What the hell is this? Although he didn't think these roots could kill him, he had no doubts that these roots didn't need any strength to deal with him, and they would definitely make his life worse than death. In an instant, he was also honest. God knows, there is such a terrifying existence under Umbrella. Soon, that ancient roar sounded again. This time, the earthquake was even more violent. In the center of the entire jungle, a subsidence suddenly appeared. Then, countless vine branches rose from the ground and slowly turned into a giant tree that covered the sky and the sun. Even the New York City area can see clearly. Stark Tower, Tony Stark has no idea what's going on in the suburbs. He is doing research on suit renewal in the laboratory. So Jarvis was informed and all outside information was blocked. But at this moment, Pepper Potts opened the door of the laboratory. Tony Stark, who was studying seriously, looked dissatisfied. But before he could speak, Potts said, "Jarvis, open the screen captured by the early warning system." The next moment, Jarvis was projecting. "I saw a terrifying giant tree slowly rising near the hive base on the outskirts of the hive. Near the giant tree, there are countless monsters of different shapes. There is also an unknown man floating in the air. The man was surrounded by countless vines and monsters." "What's this? Jarvis, are you showing me the CG animation of some game? I didn't ask you to take these business." Quote. Although he said so, in fact, he also knew that what made Paws pay so much attention, of course, it couldn't be some animated CG. "Is it nose base?" he asked. Jarvis replied, "According to the pictures observed by the satellite, it is reasonable to believe that the unknown life outside the Umbrella base is Umbrella's defense measures." An hour earlier, satellites had captured footage of the attack on the Umbrella base. Quote. Tony Stark's face darkened. "Why didn't you notify me? It was your request to cut off all outside information, sir." Jarvis's flat voice made Tony Stark speechless for a moment. Yes, this is his order. But he was good friends with Noah, and he was also a member of the Technology Arc project. When the Umbrella base was attacked, he didn't respond in any way, which made him feel a little ashamed. Change the early warning mechanism and judge whether to notify according to the importance of the event. "Okay, sir." After modifying the order, Tony Stark said to Pepper Potts with a solemn expression, "I have to go and have a look. Whether it's the giant tree or the person who attacked, I have to find out." After speaking, Tony Stark immediately put on his battle suit and flew towards the hive. Shield. Although Nick Fury is not like Tony Stark, he has a private satellite that can be mobilized at will. But with such a big movement, he still quickly got the picture of the scene. Seeing the giant tree, Nick Fury's face became serious. Things are in trouble. He underestimated Umbrella, or rather, he underestimated Noah Allen. Hope it won't be any trouble. Nick Fury sighed inwardly. On the other hand, the military is the most sensitive one to the battle taking place outside New York. Especially after the two sides used heavy weapons such as small missiles, the military immediately took action. More than 3,000 soldiers assembled and carried heavy weapons, trekking towards the base in the outskirts. They want everyone to know that this is New York, and no one can attack companies that have close ties to the military on New York territory. Not only the 3,000 people, the military even contacted the Air Force. General Ross directly ordered that the fighter planes have been dispatched and are flying towards the outskirts of New York at high speed. When a flying formation flew over, they saw a towering giant tree appear in front of their eyes. The height is hundreds of meters. The branches dancing all over the sky brought them great pressure. They were so scared that they almost attacked directly. Fortunately, General Ross responded quickly and asked them to wait and see what happened, which did not cause any misunderstanding. The citizens of New York who were seen by countless people stopped in shock. God, is this our world? The picture in front of me has appeared on TV and in games before. Can it be realistic? How could such a magical scene appear? This time, Umbrella raised the sense of presence to the extreme. Today, the 4 words of Umbrella are destined to be remembered by the whole world. Everyone is surprised. But this is war. Both parties at the scene reacted quickly. Guns roared. The surviving members of the Ten Rings gang didn't even think about winning the battle. At this moment, they just wanted to escape from here, and never had any contact with Umbrella again. The various high-tech weapons in their hands are only fired for this purpose. However, it doesn't make sense. In front of the Umbrella security forces, in front of the endless swarms of insects, in front of monster groups, in front of this giant tree. Everything they did was extremely powerless. Even adults, after seeing the giant tree, can only be trapped. But the Mandarin did not give up. The 10 Commandments' various abilities swirled to deal with the attacking monster vines and various flying monsters. After finding the opportunity, he directly activated the Ring of Vortex with all his strength, and a gust of wind suddenly appeared under his feet, sending him towards the giant tree. As long as the giant tree is dealt with, he still has a chance, at least he can leave here. After successfully approaching the giant tree, he had a sinister smile on his face. It doesn't matter how big it is, in front of the 10 Commandments, it doesn't make any sense. The next moment, the upper ring of his right ring finger lit up for the first time. A cutting ray shot towards the giant tree. The cutting ray hit the trunk of the giant tree, and the branches and vines wrapped around the giant tree broke instantly. That's all. The trunk of the giant tree has not even been cut through its skin. The adults are full of disbelief. This is a cutting ray. Facing the blow just now, the giant tree, which was only attacked by some branches, suddenly moved. Countless branches burst out instantly. At a speed beyond the speed of sound, it hit the Mandarin. Looking at the endless branches, Mandarin's eyes showed despair. The next moment, hundreds of branches penetrated his entire body. Mandarin, die. Hundreds of branches were pulled out slowly, and the Mandarin's body fell down with a bang. The battle situation came to a standstill at this moment. The few members of the 10 rings who are still alive have completely given up their resistance. But Umbrella's defense force didn't know what to hold back. In the blink of an eye, no one survived. Even Brock Rumlow, the Hydra, turned into a corpse. Giant trees stand between the sky and the earth, and countless monsters hover in the air. On the ground, there are traces of burning flames everywhere, but there are still some places where ice crystals condense. In addition to this, other visions are present here and there. Endless swarms, T-virus infected beasts, terrifying Goliaths, tyrants, lickers, and more abound. Soon, Tony Stark came roaring. Looking at the scene in front of him that seemed like a magical doomsday, he was almost stunned. Vigilantly falling from the sky, Tony Stark walked into the battle zone with vigilance. Countless monsters stared at him, but none of them rushed towards him. Just like that, he walked all the way into the hinterland of the battlefield, where Frank and the others were. Tony Stark met Frank, so he walked over and asked, "What happened here?" Frank came back to his senses and said, "There was a terrorist attack, and Umbrella was forced to activate the defense system." This is the speech he had prepared long ago. Defense system. You call these defense systems? Quote, Tony Stark looked at the scene that subverted the worldview in front of him, his eyes almost popped out. It's outrageous. Especially the giant tree, it is almost the same as the world tree in the myth. Not to mention extremely tall, it is also extremely thick. As time goes by, the giant tree is still flourishing visible to the naked eye. If this goes on, I'm afraid it won't take long to occupy the entire woodland. It is too exaggerated. Frank could only nod silently. He also knew that the giant tree's current performance was exaggerated, but he couldn't give any explanation. Before the two of them spoke for too long, a faint roar sounded. That was the voice of the convoy. Soon, a large number of infantry got out of the car. Everyone's eyes were filled with extreme shock. This time the team was led by a general named Hagrid. General Hagrid secretly swallowed his saliva. The giant tree in front of him was really too big, and the closer it got, the more shocking it would be. "General, what should we do? Do we want to go in?" The adjutant on the side was also dumbfounded. The jungle in front of them was like a giant beast that devoured people, making them dare not move at all. General Hagrid looked at the silent jungle, gritted his teeth and said, "Information shows that the battle inside is over, right?" The adjutant nodded. "If that's the case, then go in. Since you're here, you can't turn around and go back. The troops don't move. Bring some people and go in with me." The giant tree in front of him should be Umbrella's biological weapon. Since it is a weapon, it is controllable and there should be no danger. Quote. The adjutant hesitated, then nodded. While delivering the order, he still glanced at the giant tree with palpitations. Everyone knows the truth, but if you really want to go in and face the giant tree, this kind of mood cannot be calmed down by understanding the truth. At this time, Noah was still flying back quickly. However, he understood through the fluctuations in his mind that the battle was over. Taking out the phone, Noah directly contacted Frank. At this moment, General Hagrid had just met Frank, and they were exchanging polite greetings. The biological weapons that were overwhelming before have all disappeared and returned to their original places. It's as if it never came out. But the giant tree is obviously unable to do so. And even if you can leave, there is no need. The goal is too obvious, no one is a fool, it is better to stay here and deter those enemies who are about to move. After seeing Noah's call, Frank said sorry, and then picked up the phone. Frank, how's the hive going? Noah asked. Although he was a little surprised that the boss called at this time and seemed to know the situation here, he still replied. The hive is intact. Not long ago, a suspected terrorist organization attacked here. Those terrorists are not only well equipped, but their leaders also have all kinds of strange abilities, which caused heavy losses to the brothers. So I turned on the controller you left behind. At this time, the terrorists have all been wiped out, and their leader's body is trapped by a giant tree, and we cannot obtain it, but I suspect that the opponent's ability is related to the 10 rings he wears on his hand. Quote. Frank talked about his guess, and it was not difficult to think of the ring. A normal person who would wear 10 rings. And he noticed that when the opponent attacked, those rings seemed to light up. Hearing Frank's words, Noah immediately thought of the Mandarin. Except for the Mandarin, I am afraid that no one would flaunt the ring. Then Noah's eyes brightened slightly. Each of the 10 commandments has a different function. Obtaining the 10 commandments was of great help to him in understanding magic. Of course, it's fine if you wear the 10 commandments. Wearing 10 rings together will affect his image and will not help his strength. But it's good to study magic, or do some other things. You don't have to worry about the 10 commandments. With the great tree of Erithnu, no one can steal the 10 commandments. Quote. The giant tree of Erithnu is the highest crystallization of biotechnology when Noah came to this world. Noah used all means of promotion on the Erithnu giant tree, including the black light virus that he never used on any weapon. The essence of the Erithnu giant tree is a tree of life that he extracted through the system. The tree of life is extremely tenacious, and has strong compatibility with various genes. It is simply a perfect biological weapon. With various means, the giant tree of Erithnu has what it is today. Not only that, but the Erithnu giant tree can continue to evolve and grow. Perhaps, one day it can also grow into a tree, comparable to the existence of the legendary world tree. Not only in Umbrella, Annabella also has a similar powerful biological weapon. No matter what the enemy is, it will be torn to pieces in front of the two. Frank heard the name Erithnu giant tree. Then he hesitated and said, Boss, there is one more thing. I just got word that Manhattan has been invaded. But the other party didn't even enter the community, so they were dealt with. Quote. Just after Frank finished speaking, Noah's pupils had turned into pitch black, so dark that it was frightening. Have you found anything? Noah's voice was extremely calm. Frank replied, No, but on Umbrella's side, we found the company's product, Tyrant T-101. I see. There was a chill in Noah's voice, the Tyrant T-101, but the latest biological weapon sold by the company, is not owned by any force except for a few official departments. Everything, I'll talk about it when I go back. In the next instant, Noah's speed increased several times. His bottom line has been touched. What's the bottom line? The bottom line is absolutely not allowed to be touched. However, his bottom line has been touched more than once. Why does this happen? He knew very well in his heart that it was because he was not strong enough, and because he still needed to abide by the rules of this world. It is precisely because of his family that he has his bottom line frequently touched by others. But it is precisely because of the bottom line that he has never been confused, so he has a clear judgment on his future. Or maybe, this is also the reason why Ji Yi never killed him. It is true that Ji Yu only cares about external dangers. But that's because the crisis inside the earth has never risen to the point of extinction. Without the fetters of his family, he couldn't imagine what he would do in the future. Now that there is no bondage in the body, it is no different from the devil. He doesn't mind being a demon for his family, but he never thought of becoming one himself. It might be fun to kill freely, but what's the point of living like this? Live to kill. Maybe at that time he only had one idea. If you want to destroy the world, then destroy it. Thinking of this in his heart, Noah's eyes flashed fiercely. Now that the bottom line has been touched, is there anything else to do besides killing? If he let the enemy go this time, will he continue to let go the next time the enemy strikes? Apart from killing, there was no other way to appease his anger. This matter must be investigated to the end. If this matter is a means of some capital, then it will be destroyed. If this matter is done by some forces in the government, it will be ruined. If this matter is ordered by the entire government, Noah's eyes paused slightly, and then it was as cold as hell. He can't destroy all the people, but he can throw the country into chaos. He is already ready to stage an enhanced version of Resident Evil in this world, and even prepare for the dance of demons. He wants to let the world know once again what his bottom line is. With mixed thoughts, Noah returned to New York. At this moment, New York is extremely peaceful. The sky has darkened, and the lights have been turned on everywhere. And near the beehive base, on the giant tree of Erithnu, a little bit of light flickered. The looming lights appear mysterious and majestic. Noah flapped his wings and flew directly over the giant tree of Erithnu. Standing atop the crown of the great tree of Erithnal, the whole of New York can be seen bowing down. Under his feet is his confidence that he is not afraid of anything at the moment. After standing on the high ground for a while, Noah quietly entered the hive base. At this time, neither Tony Stark nor General Hagrid left, and there were even some representatives of other forces. Even Susan and Johnny rushed over. Because of the existence of the giant tree, everyone knows that what happened today has become a big deal. Being attacked this time is definitely not the end. Instead, this is where the trouble really started. Noah Allen couldn't possibly compromise. American capital cannot compromise. The military is even less likely to compromise. Looking around, there was a smile on Noah's face. It's just that there is a bit of bitterness on this smiling face no matter how you look at it. I'm laughing at everyone. I didn't expect that in the outskirts of New York, someone would dispatch a lot of heavy firepower to besiege here. I think this is no longer a personal provocation to me. Quote. As a representative of the military, General Hagrid nodded and said solemnly. That's right, this time the umbrella incident has affected the image of the entire U.S. government. This is a provocation to the government, but also to the military. This matter must not end like this. Quote. General Hagrid spoke loudly. Tony Stark frowned and said, the forces behind these terrorists may not be small. Otherwise, it would be impossible to have such an advanced weapon and transport it to New York without anyone noticing it. I have checked the weapons, most of them are unknown models, and I have not even seen the technology on them. It is difficult to trace which faction's manpower. But on a few tyrants. Having said that, Tony Stark didn't continue talking, but gestured to Noah. As soon as Noah heard it, he knew that things were not simple, but he still said, Tony, let's just say it, no matter what the source is, it's not the reason for them to storm the hive. Noah spoke loudly. Seeing this, Tony Stark could only say, I found the SHIELD logo on Tyrant T-101. Tony Stark's words undoubtedly attracted everyone's attention. Of course they all know the name SHIELD. This matter is actually related to SHIELD. Noah's eyes were full of killing intent. Nick Fury. Just finished speaking, Noah narrowed his eyes. Nick Fury can't represent SHIELD. He believes that this matter has the shadow of SHIELD, but if SHIELD is not afraid of being exposed, it will not deliberately dismiss him. Nick Fury is probably also kept in the dark about this matter. So, is it Hydra? Noah reacted immediately. The previous inertial thinking made him feel that Hydra would not come out to cause trouble at this time. Now it seems that he was careless. If it's Hydra, then it's normal for one's parents to be attacked. But all this is just speculation. With his face unchanged, Noah said to everyone. To trouble everyone today, let's talk about the tyrant. Let's start with the terrorists first. If this matter is really related to SHIELD, I will go to them and ask for an explanation. Quote. In his heart, Noah thought of another idea. Nick Fury has nothing to do with this matter. And even if this matter has nothing to do with Nick Fury, he will make Nick Fury regret not disciplining his subordinates well. Afterwards, representatives of the military and the capital side left respectively. Tony Stark said, Noah, the SHIELD organization is not easy to mess with. Noah nodded. I know it, but I have my own bottom line. What happened today? Someone has already troubled my parents. If it is confirmed that SHIELD is responsible, I will let them know how terrible I am by unscrupulous methods. Quote. When Noah spoke, his voice was full of murderous intent, without any concealment. Tony Stark didn't say anything when he heard the words. It's not normal for his parents not to get angry when their safety is threatened. Let me know if anything happens, and I'll stand by your side. The two of us together, even if it is SHIELD, we have to weigh it. Quote. After speaking, Tony Stark glanced at Susan. He knew that this was Susan Stone, the Invisible Woman, and he was just wondering how the Invisible Woman came. Then Susan came over. "It doesn't matter if you are here. It's nothing, it's just that the whole cards are all exposed, and there may be some troubles in the future. But I've long thought that such a day would come." Quote. The two spoke briefly, and then Susan and Johnny also left. They knew that Noah at this time needed his own time. Be it an investigation or something else. After everyone left, Noah said to Frank and the others, "This time I'll trouble you. Call me all the video data, and the information of S.H.I.E.L.D., I also need detailed information." Quote. After finishing speaking, Noah turned into a black wing and jumped towards the giant tree. Under the giant tree, there is the corpse of Mandarin. No one knows what the black light virus is. No one knows that the black light virus can devour memories. No one can escape his liquidation. Under the giant tree of Erythnal. Noah flipped through the Mandarin's memory. The connection between Pierce and him was immediately found out by Noah. "It really is Hydra." Noah sighed. "Hydra is troublesome. The most troublesome thing is that they are well hidden. No one knows the identity of Hydra, so naturally there is no way to find out. But unfortunately, Noah is the only one who knows about Hydra. At least, Pierce, who is on the bright side, can know it clearly as long as he devours Pierce's memory. That being the case, let's start with Pierce. Kill Pierce directly. This is very simple, but that won't work, because no one knows he did it. So he not only wants to kill, but also wants everyone to know that this is his method of Noah Allen. Only by doing so can everyone understand what not to do. In addition to Pierce, there are many people involved. That night, there were more than 10 murders. Moreover, each of these bloody cases involved powerful figures. Early the next morning, the whole of New York was covered with news of the murder. The whole of New York was panicked. No one knew what happened, and everyone was worried whether there was a murderous maniac in action. Only a few people have some guesses in their hearts. But even they weren't sure. Because things happened so fast. Umbrella's attack had just happened. Ordinarily, let alone retaliation, the investigation work alone may have to last for a long time, and there may not be a result even in a few months. Many forces that are hostile to him are waiting to see his good show with full expectation. But last night's murder directly silenced the entire New York. It's okay if Noah didn't do it, but if he did it, what does it mean? It shows that he has extraordinary tracking and investigation methods. There are many people who want to deal with Noah. But no one thought that he could kill Noah. No one even thought that they could escape Noah's attack. So the best way to deal with him is to suppress him through rules. But there are always some people who are very concerned about Noah's weakness. There is no doubt that Noah's parents are his greatest weakness. But they dealt with Noah for profit. If the price is unexplained death, no one will want to touch it. Almost everyone was terrified at this moment. They can only pray in their hearts, those murders were not done by Noah. Because that means Noah Allen has no scruples. Then, that afternoon, 2 government officials died at home. This news made the entire New York police force run at high speed. The forces of all parties are even more horrified. Noah Allen crazy. Someone flipped the table, you can take revenge. But this kind of crazy killing, what to do if you kill the wrong person? How do you know? Those people must have something to do with it. It can be said that at this moment, everyone is in danger, afraid of being targeted. Then, the military and the New York police entered the hive at the same time and had a conversation with Noah. The outcome of the conversation is unknown. But the killing, at least, was over. Just when everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Noah has arrived at the gate of S.H.I.E.L.D. The killing before was just an appetizer. In front of people of Pierce's level, the people he killed were nothing at all. As for the reason for stopping, the military is here, and face is still to be given. Anyway, they were almost killed. As for the rest, just let them live a few more days. His revenge has only just begun. Inside S.H.I.E.L.D., Nick Fury felt a deep uneasiness in his heart. Most importantly, there were some documents in front of him. These are information that he has never known before. He had the urge to yell, "This is S.H.I.E.L.D., and he is the director of S.H.I.E.L.D. As a result, there was so much information in S.H.I.E.L.D. that he was completely unaware of. What scares him the most is that he doesn't know who is involved. He couldn't even be sure which of the top secret agents he trusted were worthy of his trust. Brock Rumlow himself was a senior agent whom he trusted. Even agents of this level can betray. Make it hard for him to imagine other people's loyalty. Especially among the people who attacked Umbrella, T-101, the tyrant who belonged to their shield. It's easy for a Brock Rumlow to explain, but the deployment of a biological weapon like the Tyrant T-101 requires approval at various levels. It's hard to believe that he, the bureau chief, doesn't know. It can be said that this directly put him on the fire shelf. The most troublesome thing now is, how should he deal with Noah Allen? Hiding the documents in his hand, Nick Fury planned his next actions. This secret investigation document cannot be leaked. Even because of Brock Rumlow and Tyrant T-101, many people already know about this matter. But if he kept it a day longer, he would be able to find out more enemies. The current situation made him feel for the first time that things were a little out of control. However, this is S.H.I.E.L.D. It is a department to protect the world from superpowers. At this point, nothing will change. Even in the face of Noah Allen, he must not show weakness. Nick Fury has one sharp eye. Just as he was thinking, the door burst open. Noah came in through the door. Noah Allen, why are you here? Nick Fury saw that Noah's face was not very good. But because of his black face, Noah couldn't see it. Noah said silently, your people don't want me to come in, so I can only come in by myself. Nick Fury's complexion changed drastically. Where are they? Don't worry, I'm not dead. Noah's voice was indifferent. The most serious injury was just a few broken bones. I haven't tried to kill anyone here yet. That's right, Noah didn't kill anyone, and the heaviest thing was indeed just a few broken bones. But as long as the members of the S.H.I.E.L.D. he saw, all of them received this treatment, and the number of them, maybe 100 or so. Nick Fury was visibly relieved. The heaviest one was only a few broken bones. It seems that other people have no serious problems. He was really afraid that Noah would do something out of the ordinary. Now it seems that Noah Allen still has some scruples. Noah stared at Nick Fury's eyes, and said, although I'm just a commoner, isn't what S.H.I.E.L.D. has done too much? Nick Fury's face remained unchanged. What did S.H.I.E.L.D. do? His expression was calm enough to make all those who questioned him ashamed. But Noah obviously didn't agree with him, and said with a sneer. S.H.I.E.L.D. was cooperating and even directly involved in the terrorist attack on Umbrella. Don't tell me you don't know about this. Quote, Nick Fury heard the words and said with a serious face. I'm still investigating this matter, please believe me, I will give you a reasonable answer. But I can assure you that this matter has nothing to do with me or S.H.I.E.L.D. Quote, Noah sneered when he heard this. It doesn't matter. It's a shame you can tell. Quote, in other words, people are shameless and invincible. Black stewed eggs are shameless, and even more invincible in the universe. Because you can't see the change in his expression at all. Are you trying to tell me that S.H.I.E.L.D. is not under your control? Nick Fury looked indifferent. S.H.I.E.L.D. is naturally under my control, but some people stole Tyrant T-101 through special means. Now the investigation within S.H.I.E.L.D. has begun, and I believe that there will be results soon. Quote, Noah chuckled. His face remained the same, but a little more gloomy. New York is too dangerous. Perhaps, the two elders should be allowed to live in a safe place so that this does not happen again. Thinking in his heart, Noah said, we both know that this is just an excuse. If your men just attacked Umbrella, I don't bother with you. However, outside my parents' compound, a group of S.H.I.E.L.D. agents were captured. Now you tell me that none of this has anything to do with you. As he spoke, Noah's eyes flickered with killing intent. This naked killing intent made Nick Fury feel chills all over his body. If you don't want to follow the rules, then don't blame me for not following the rules. Nick Fury's face changed again, but this time, his expression changed, even his black face couldn't hide it. It was the first time he knew this information. Now because of the news that the Tyrant T-101 appeared in Umbrella, the entire S.H.I.E.L.D. has fallen into chaos. Regardless of trust or distrust, he sent out to investigate. There is no time to pay attention to such little things at all. But obviously, this is not a small matter for Noah, but a big event that can make Noah Allen turn the table. Nick Fury's expression was instantly solemn. He couldn't bear the consequences of Noah Allen flipping the table. At least he couldn't afford it until he was sure of dealing with Umbrella's giant tree. Because the military will not stand on the same front as him. Noah Allen, you have to think clearly, this is a society ruled by law. Noah laughed angrily. Federal society. Could it be that the so-called rule of law society is to let you shield kidnap my parents? If this is the case, then I will let you know how ridiculous your so-called society ruled by law is. Nick Fury, don't push me. Quote, the threatening look in Noah's eyes was not concealed at all. A few months ago, he didn't have the capital to threaten. But now, he has confidence. If your shield represents the US government, I'll talk to you a few more words before turning the table. But you, an organization directly under the management of the United Nations, have no right to let me, a local capital, bow down. Do you really think the government is not dissatisfied with SHIELD? Nick Fury's one eye flickered. Let's all calm down, anger doesn't solve anything. Hand over the people you captured to me, and I will give you an explanation within 3 days. Quote. Noah ignored him at all, but said directly, no, I've already interrogated those people. They confessed a few people. Those few people are all senior agents of your shield. Most importantly, I heard a very interesting term from them, Hydra. I think you should know about this organization. Quote. Hydra. Nick Fury stood up abruptly. Of course he knew about the organization. This is impossible, Hydra has long since disappeared, and it is impossible to appear now. That's none of my business, it's your shield problem. I only care about your answer and the explanation you gave. Quote. Noah narrowed his eyes and said. Of the existence of Hydra, he naturally told Nick Fury specifically. He wants Nick Fury to join him in the siege of S.H.I.E.L.D. As an agency directly under the United Nations, S.H.I.E.L.D. can mobilize many more resources than him. Even if he devoured Pierce's memory. But each branch of Hydra does not belong to each other, and there is almost no connection. He may not be able to suppress other Hydra branches. But he didn't want to use the method of constantly devouring memories. Although the memory devoured by the black light is stored separately from his original memory. But if you swallow too much, it may still affect yourself. Therefore, he has to solve it in the simplest way. Let Nick Fury feel the threat of Hydra, and doing it with him is the best way. It's not just Pierce's team, he will make Hydra never dare to show up again within 10 years. What do you want? In the end, Nick Fury chose to compromise. If Noah Allen hadn't lied to him, S.H.I.E.L.D. would be in big trouble. The most important thing for S.H.I.E.L.D. now is to solve the internal Hydra problem. As for the possibility of Noah lying to him, he thought about it. Probably not. Moreover, the Tyrant T-101 was not authorized to be used, which was enough to make him vigilant. That's not what a Brock Rumlow did. The most frightening thing is that after his order was issued, it was like a stone sinking into the sea, and no effective information has been obtained until now, and it is not even as effective as the names provided to him by Noah Allen just now. Those names were all on the suspect list he had just hidden. Moreover, the status is quite high. My request is not high. Let me go to the gene pool of abnormal organisms in S.H.I.E.L.D., and I will take 10 genetic samples for research. S.H.I.E.L.D. has dealt with abnormal creatures for many years, so there are naturally many strange genes in the gene bank. For Noah, this is undoubtedly the most valuable thing. Nick Fury agreed decisively. Okay, I'll take you there tomorrow. Noah sneered. Do you think I look like a fool? This time, Nick Fury was silent. I can only authorize you to take 3 samples. Noah nodded. 3 servings are also enough. Even, as long as there is 1 copy, it is a big profit. He already has a goal. If nothing else, there should be a genetic sample of an orange cat here. If you get it, you will make a lot of money. Even if he couldn't get it, he would be satisfied if he got 3 genetic samples above level 6. With the system and the genetic samples, are you afraid that you won't be able to clone them? Let's start with the genetic samples. The S.H.I.E.L.D. stuff will belong to him sooner or later. Soon, the 2 arrived in the S.H.I.E.L.D. gene pool. Nick Fury said, this is where all the genetic samples that have ever appeared on Earth are stored. Some things are dangerous and I hope you don't make the wrong choice. He knows exactly which is the most dangerous share. And he wasn't worried about Noah Allen taking it away, because the note on that sample was an orange cat. As long as that sample wasn't taken away, he wasn't too worried. The two walked all the way, and Noah stopped to look at it from time to time. The samples in the gene bank have strange names. There are even words like giant monsters. But these are not within the scope of his goals. Finally, Noah's goal was set on a seemingly ordinary genetic sample. Gene sample. Orange cat. Will the orange cat sample be placed in the abnormal biological gene sample? Noah smiled lightly. This is his goal. Gene sample. Essence devouring beast. In an instant, a smile appeared on Noah's face. That's it. Nick Fury's complexion changed instantly. The value of Yuan devouring beast is extremely high. Especially for Noah. The Yuan devouring beast is not only good in combat power, but most importantly, the thing swallowed by it can be stored in another dimension. When thinking of Yuan devouring beast, Noah couldn't help thinking that if he could store an army of creatures in Yuan devouring beast's dimensional space, then he could get rid of many restrictions. Of course, Noah didn't expect that he would be able to successfully study the gene of the devouring beast immediately. The concept of the dimension in the body is not something he can understand now. But this still cannot conceal the value of Yuan devouring beast. In addition to the dimension, other characteristics of this creature are also worthy of his research, which is a great improvement for his own biological weapons. Regardless of Nick Fury's ugly face, Noah directly put the Yuan devourer gene into his pocket. As for the idea of black stewed eggs, does that matter? Noah came here today with only one purpose, to get some benefits for himself, and then discussed Nick Fury. Of course, this is just the beginning. S.H.I.E.L.D., including his own cooperation, is an important factor in this attack. If this is the case, then Noah Allen is really a fish on the chopping board and can be slaughtered. It's just, to deal with an official organization like S.H.I.E.L.D. It is impossible to come clearly. Not to mention him, even the military, without conclusive evidence. It is also impossible to make any hostile moves against S.H.I.E.L.D. Therefore, his method can only be changed from bright to dark. Isn't that the evidence? I can't get your S.H.I.E.L.D. evidence, can you get me Noah Allen's evidence? Now that the rules have been broken, let's blow things up. While he wants to use S.H.I.E.L.D. to suppress Hydra, he also disables S.H.I.E.L.D. Otherwise, how can it make Nick Fury heartache? But all of this is just a plan. After selecting 2 copies of the alien animal gene from the gene bank, under the gaze of Nick Fury, Noah flapped his wings and left. The goal has been achieved, and he doesn't want to stay for a second. Watching Noah leave, Nick Fury had a serious face. The existence of Noah Allen has seriously threatened the security of the world. If this continues, it may become unbalanced. This is him, S.H.I.E.L.D., and the whole world cannot accept the result. The Avengers plan must be officially launched immediately. Nick Fury thought about it, before he could breathe a sigh of relief. Hill called. Director, almost all of our agents who stayed at the base had their bones broken. Nick Fury was in a daze. All, didn't Noah Allen say that the most serious thing is just a few broken bones? For a while, Nick Fury's face turned darker. After yelling, Nick Fury's expression returned to calm. Since all the senior agents in the base were injured, the operation of the base might also be affected. But it's also good. These high-level agents could not be trusted at all, so it would be better to promote a group of low-level agents. Thinking about it, the result is not too bad. It is better than S.H.I.E.L.D. turning into Snake Shield. Noah left the S.H.I.E.L.D. base and went straight home. This incident gave him a wake-up call. Although the enemy was dealt with before entering the community, it was not a problem to always be so passive. New York is too dangerous. Nearly all of the peril in the Marvel Universe is centered in New York. Although Noah also gave them some reinforcements, let them leave here first. That afternoon, Noah chatted with them for a long time. Noah did not leave at night. Early the next morning, Noah sent them away directly. It is said that there is a mysterious land in the east, and no mysterious power dares to step into it. Let them live there, and then arrange enough defense forces by themselves. It's much safer than living here. After doing this, Noah was relieved. The shackles on his body seemed to be completely cast off at this moment. Next, it's his turn to take revenge. He wants to let those people know that if there are some things, if they are done, there will be no chance of regretting them. Noah returned to the hive base and came to Elvis' laboratory. How's the preparation for what I arranged? Elvis hesitated. Boss, this thing is too dangerous. No's face remained unchanged. It's okay, I know everything is under control. It just so happens that our virus also needs to be tested. Quote. Elvis no longer hesitated after hearing this. At this point, he has long since had no choice. Not only him, but many people in Umbrella have no choice. This is inevitable. If you want to get something, you must pay a price. Even at this price, people may gradually degenerate into demons. Just like Professor Connor, a new arm has grown on his arm. Not only that, that arm has amazing strength, extremely high flexibility and accuracy, and can even change freely. For researchers like them, it is definitely a huge treasure. Although the boss also said that with that arm installed, he will never be able to betray him in this life. Professor Connor chose to wear it in order to regain his healthy limbs. After all, although the limb regeneration experiment has been making progress, no one knows when it will be completed when it comes to the results. As for himself, it was for research. As for betrayal, the boss gave him this opportunity as an ordinary researcher. He's a researcher, and he's alone. He just wants to explore the supremacy of biology, and he doesn't care about the rest. That peculiar arm made him see this possibility. So, a few long tentacles suddenly protruded from behind Elvis. Take a test tube placed a few meters away. Here is what you want. Noah took the test tube and nodded with a smile. Black light virus, nice, isn't it? Compared with relying on trust to control people's hearts, this method of transformation is far less effective. The black light virus produced by the system naturally has absolute loyalty to him. This also makes it difficult for those infected with the black light virus to refuse the loyalty brought by the black light virus. Now, the first biochemical crisis in the Marvel world can begin. At this time, New York was silent. Although the lights were brightly lit, many people still had various emotions in their hearts when they saw the dim light of the giant trees outside the suburbs. Somewhere in Hell's Kitchen, a few punks were chatting lazily. Every time I see that tree, I feel like I have seen a miracle. I really want to visit it sometime. Hey, it's a miracle, it's a murderous weapon. If you really want to go over, I'm afraid you will be dead in a few seconds. Quote. That's right, you said how those people in Umbrella created this monster, it's too scary. God knows, maybe their boss is really a demon from hell. This kind of thing is too far away from us. Fortunately, the demon has left from Hell's Kitchen. Quote. You said, is there anything good in that devil's house? Maybe we can go and see, and if we find something, we'll be rich. Quote. A person spoke with a weird voice. No one noticed that when he spoke, his eyes were stiff. Nice one. Several people were moved. This is not impossible. Just a few people don't know. While they are talking. In the distance, a pair of eyes were staring at them, and the corners of their mouths were smiling. Resident Evil leaked. Nick Fury, what are you going to do? Shield, or your shield? This time he wants to completely intensify the conflict between Nick Fury and Hydra. At the same time weaken the power of those behind them. Coincidentally, there are too many dregs in Hell's Kitchen. Several gangsters walked towards Noah's house. The traces of the war at the beginning, because Noah left not long after the war, some remained. Seeing these scoundrels, these punks tensed up a lot. Or, let's go, in case that guy still stays here. A little fool spoke. On the side, another person took out a pistol and snorted softly. What are you afraid of? We have this guy. Moreover, this place has been abandoned for so long, and if there was any danger, it would have been discovered long ago. Maybe someone else has already gone in here. Quote, the little fool who spoke was a little excited. At the beginning, he didn't expect the possibility of good things. Now when someone reminds him, he becomes anxious. If someone gets ahead of him, how much he will lose. The other gangsters also became excited by his words. Yes, they have guns. This is just an abandoned house, how could it be dangerous? Soon, everyone walked into the house. Looking at the empty room, everyone looked at each other. Look and see if there is any hiding place, such as the basement or something. Since it is a secret, it is definitely impossible to put it on the bright side. Quote, you're right. If it was on the surface, I'm afraid it would have been taken away by someone. Several people looked at that person more. This guy usually doesn't seem to have a good brain, why is he so smart today? What none of them thought of, this guy thought of it all at once. But anyway, he had a point. After the surprise, everyone searched separately. Soon, one person exclaimed in surprise, "Come here quickly, I found the basement." Others went over to take a look, and as expected, they saw a darkroom that looked like a basement. On the door, a heavy lock tightly locked the basement door. Seeing this scene, several people showed surprise on their faces. There is a lock, which means that no one has ever entered. Perhaps, there is really something left in it. After fiddling for a while, several people directly found an axe and forcibly split the basement door open. Walking into the basement, the feeling of a completely different style from above suddenly appears. I saw that there were experimental instruments everywhere, and there were many test tube preparations. These things, do you think they are worth money? It should be worth it. I have never heard of cheap things for experiments. Quote, "Is this really a good thing?" Several people spoke excitedly. They didn't notice that the companion with weird eyes had already walked up to a row of test tubes. Then he took out one of them and stared at it with straight eyes. The movements seemed extremely stiff. It happened that a gangster looked over. "Kangley, where are you doing? Come here quickly, we are going to get rich." As he spoke, he and Conley looked into each other's eyes. Just this one glance made his back sweat. The next moment, Conley let go of his hand. Although he didn't know what the preparation was, he knew it was definitely not a good thing. "Conley, what are you doing?" In the darkness outside the house, No's mouth curled up when he heard the cry from inside. "Here we go." Soon, several men ran out of the house. That's really running. And the speed is extremely fast, much faster than ordinary people. The eyes of these people were bloodshot and crazy. After coming out, they sniffed their noses. Then run towards the distance in a selected direction. Noah came out of the darkness. The plot is already there. Next, it's time to watch the show. This is naturally not an ordinary T-virus, but a mutant variety developed by the company. If it is an ordinary T-virus, it is impossible to have any performance in this kind of world. In fact, even in the world of Resident Evil, it is also an outrageous thing that the T-virus infects the world. As for the people infected with the T-virus, at that slow speed, they want to destroy the human command organization and make the human world collapse. It's just a joke. It's just that behind the T-virus, Umbrella is pushing to achieve that step. But this mutant virus is different, it can make the host faster and stronger. Although the improvement is not exaggerated, it is enough. After all, he was just cleaning up some garbage, and he didn't really come here to destroy the world. "Ah!" A scream came from afar. "What are you doing?" "Forgive me, ah!" A shrill cry sounded, and soon, it fell silent again. In the silence of the night, the voice was extremely clear. Folks used to the chaos of Hell's Kitchen. Thinking that this was another gangster attack, they all expressed sympathy for the unfortunate guy, and at the same time closed the door tightly. Life in this trash can requires no pity, nor does it allow it. But they don't know. Such a result can only usher in death in the end. That night, the screams of Hell's Kitchen kept coming and going. The entire Hell's Kitchen was panicked, and they didn't understand what happened. Inside the Clinton Police Department, the new director received dozens of calls to the police. He was so angry that he jumped. When George Stacy was around, there wasn't so much trouble. Originally, because Hell's Kitchen was not intimidated by those top gangsters, it seemed very chaotic, but now I don't know which gangster caused this big trouble. "Pips, call people, we have to go and see what happened." I heard that because of his achievements in Hell's Kitchen, George Stacy has been promoted to the New York Police Department and became the deputy chief. He also wanted to give it a try. After all, the current Hell's Kitchen is the weakest. The power of the police, the first cannot fear the existence of gangsters. Peeps ran in. "Boss, most of the people in the bureau have been dispatched. So far there is no feedback." Quote, "Who else? Point it up for me, and let those fool who are on vacation come back to me. You can't be careless about such a big thing." Peeps nodded reluctantly. "Okay, you are the director, you have the final say." When they arrived at the first reporting location, everyone was stunned. I saw blood everywhere. Several other people were lying in front of a dead body, not knowing what they were doing. The worst thing was that the corpse they thought it was, actually moved within a few seconds. What's the situation? Am I dazzled? Does that guy have a hole in his chest? Quote. The director drew out his pistol a little nervously. Because he found that those strange guys were all looking at them. Next moment, those guys came at them. Shoot, shoot me. The director yelled, and he finally understood why no one responded until now. Bang, bang, gunshots continued, but soon, it fell into silence. This night is destined to be a night of blood. At the same time, a young man dexterously threw away several zombies. After being safe, he had lingering fears on his face, but his pupils didn't change at all, they were just ashes. What the hell happened? No, there are too many of these guys, I need backup. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.